better place to be in than the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a place that is heralded for its tradition, its prestige, and the high-class winners that always take to the bricks and always give it a little smooch. Welcome to tonight's Thousand Islands Corrette pre-race show as we get ready for the fourth race in the Season 8 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, and welcome to the coverage from the virtual Brickyard in Speedway, Indiana. Glad to have you join us. Keelan Belshaw alongside myself, Kenneth Bueno. We don't have our pit reporter, Charlie Beyer, and our good friend, Francisco Bacalhau, will be back on the racetrack. He raced last week at the Nashville Super Speedway. He'll be on for tonight's race as well from Indianapolis. And Keelan, after what was Nashville last week, we basically had it all. Strategy in that sense, a lot of great storylines, good racing over a long green flag stretch, but Indianapolis comes in at a schedule point which it's still really identity finding time. A lot of drivers are still trying to figure out where they're going to land in the fight for the playoffs. 3 races though, and 3 different winners have showed us that really anything can go down. Any of the competitive drivers can find victory lane, and what better way to do it than at Indianapolis, one of these high value racetracks that we have on the schedule.
Yeah, Kenneth, and it's been a while since we've seen the 4-Wide Racing Series on KBRN here at the Indianapolis Speedway, so it'll be nice to see everybody hit the track. But if you had a bad start to your season, it's going to be tough to get it back on track today. This is one of the tougher circuits, especially in these next gens, with how they drive and aerodynamically perform against each other. A hot lap by yourself in qualifying is going to be nothing like you're going to see on the racetrack tonight. So it's not going to get easier, but we talk about a track that has been dominated in the past by a certain team. Last week at Nashville, it was BBR who's dominated there, and it's been DBR who's had a lot of success here at Indianapolis in the past. So they'll be looking to continue that, and it's going to be a good race, Kenneth. We're in store for a good one, but it's going to be very tough on these drivers with how these cars react to the low banking racetrack.
You know, we always bring up identities and individuals in 4-Wide Racing, from Brandon Hawkin, the champion, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Lawson Peel, Jaden Porter, and the list goes on. But you're right, we'll toss up on that in just a few moments. The level of competition the teams have, not only with each other on the racetrack, but with the history of 4-Wide trying to break records and trying to take names. So we'll figure that out, and whether that trend continues tonight from Indianapolis, like he did last week at the Nashville Super Speedway, where BBR ended up with their 6th consecutive team win at that racetrack. And speaking of the Music City, we were rocking the tunes last Wednesday at the Nashville Super Speedway for Lebanon, Tennessee. A brand new look for the racetrack, and our good friend Francisco Bacalhau leading at the front. It wouldn't take long before we found our first yellow, but seemed to be the theme early on, Keelan. Lots of mistakes, aero packing, cars getting loose. You see here AJ Green getting sideways, Lawson Peel right in front, and chaos would ensue, especially here around the mid-pack. Alex Schumacher getting involved with Mikey Neal. Mikey Neal's race would be sent into the wall, and hard into the wall early. He would be out of the race. First DNF of the night would occur there. More loose moments. Craig Parks would go sideways at the exit of turn 4. But Keelan, when things really opened up, boy did it really open up. Starting here with Bacalhau's penalty on pit road. He would give up his track position, but it was a result in the longest green flag run we'd have of the night.
Yeah, Francisco, he dominated the early stages of that race and unfortunately had to serve that penalty. And that allowed Eric Schaefer to switch it up on strategy, get some track position. He got sent by Gabriel DeHari right there, and that caused this cluster right here off the second corner, where Steven Maggio and Ethan Fonseca Moreno went around. AJ Green would end up inheriting the lead through a bit of pit strategy as Eric Schaefer tried to climb his way through the field again. Lawson Peel, he had trouble to start his season so far, and Nashville is no exception. Lap 87, he went for a loop in the infield grass. No caution came out, and we had some green flag stops. AJ Green was the first to take service, and can you believe he did not get a penalty there, Kenneth? That was incredible in that green flag pit stop cycle. Timothy Cook, he went for a spin, and that really broke everything wide open. Late race restart, Juan Escamilla went around, and then we had Jaden Porter up on the front row in overtime as he got around Amir Bascom right here in the 21 car. That would end up setting us up for some late race overtime action between him and Schumacher and Moreno and all the sorts.
Moreno trying to look for the lead, and then a big decision down pit road. Porter elected to stay out. Everyone in the group decided to come in right behind, but it would not matter for the Louisville, Kentucky native of Jaden Porter. Second victory here at the Nashville Super Speedway, 8th career 4-Wide victory in his career. And we mentioned how his first W came here at this speedway. It comes full circle here in Season 8, locks himself right into those 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs. And if we mention again the domination of KBueno Racing, a 6th consecutive dub at the Nashville Superspeedway means they are there for business and business only. They get to party hard when they win the races, and Jaden just relishing in that W from last Wednesday. And it was a huge emotional victory for Porter. Here's how it all ended at the checkered flag and what it meant to the Kentucky driver. It's Porter on the top groove again. Schumacher to react on the inside. Who deals the best punch on the restart? It's Porter decisively. Jurgensmeyer to follow suit to turn 1. They may be too late to the charge. And Jaden Porter, who won his first race here in Season 4, will get his most emotional victory, and he's gonna do it for Dad off the final corner. Jaden Porter is gonna win at Nashville Super Speedway and takes his first victory of Season 8.
I'm holding back some tears right now a little bit.
An emotional victory for Jaden nonetheless, and probably the biggest win of his 4-wide career as we join the Louisville, Kentucky native and Season 5 champion of this 4-wide racing series. Jaden, I have to imagine off of such a big win at Nashville Superspeedway, those emotions have to be still there, no?
Oh yeah, no, they're still there. That race meant a lot to me, on and off the sim. And to go and lock myself into the playoffs was a big thing, so I feel good that I was able to do that.
So now jumping off of Nashville and how much of a high emotion day that was for you, not only for the playoff spot, but a lot of other things in consider it, bringing your team their 6th consecutive dub at the track. I'm sure that was meaningful as well. But now you've got a playoff spot. You're going to be fighting for a championship later on this season, but that's a long time from now. Still a lot of season left to crunch in. How do you tackle this race in Indianapolis, and how specifically do you try to ride off of that high momentum and keep that consistency going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had the speed to win the last 2 races. I feel like I just played the wrong pit strategy and put myself in the back, which I shouldn't have. Last week, got track position finally and was able to, win the race. I feel like, just go out there and try to win races. We saw last season how important winning races was for playoff points for, Brandon Hawk and all those guys. And, try to get ourselves back in that regular season championship fight, because I remember how important that was for me last season too. So we're just going to go try to win races, and yeah.
I remember you told us last season how important being consistent was over the course of the regular season, with how important the playoff fight ends up being at the end. Keelan, you got something for Jaden?
Well, I was hopping off Kenneth's back. That was a really great win for you last week, and to get on the right path. How do you relock in as we start to, the season starts to progress? You already got that win in your back pocket. So what do you do mentally to kind of get back in the zone, to get into, the position you need to be in to maybe go for 2 straight wins?
I want to win every race. So I don't feel like I need to really lock in. I feel like I'm already pretty locked in. Especially this week at Indianapolis. Who doesn't want to win at Indy? This was also probably one of my dad's favorite tracks, so it'd mean a lot again to win here, again. But yeah, I feel like I'm locked in. I want to win every race that I can. Probably road courses I won't be able to win, but I want to win every race, every oval that I can. And I feel like once the green flag drops, it's pretty easy to lock back in.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. One more question. What race is that you have on in the background? I've been curious. It looks like an old ESPN ticker. So
yeah, the 2012 Brickyard 400. It was one of my favorite races that I've been to, mainly because.
Oh, you've been there?
Yeah, I was there from 2010 to 2013. Then I went back in 2019. And yeah, it was one of my favorite races because of the paint scheme Dojinger ran. He ran pretty well, and Jimmy Johnson won also. So it's a pretty cool day.
There you go. Well, watching a little bit of film before you get out there, it appears. So we wish you the best of luck, Jaden. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope you have a good race in your number 28 car.
All right, thank you. Also, Kenneth, if you can refresh trading paints, I had to change my paint scheme.
All right, well, we appreciate the time. That's Jaden Porter, the Season 5 champion of the 4-Wide Racing Series, as he tries to check back in after his win last week at the virtual Nashville Superspeedway. Again, such a huge uplifting victory for the Kentucky driver. Going to try to go back-to-back, something that we really haven't seen in a little while, apart from some Brandon Hawkins shenanigans from last season that ultimately ended up in the title race. But such a big moment for Porter in that sense, trying to continue that level of consistency as he tries for a second career 4-wide title, something that still has not been achieved by anyone in this series to date. Well, BBR and Jaden succeeded last week in Nashville, but something is in the air for DBR. Here at the Brickyard, they've won the last 4 consecutive races here at this 2.5-mile rectangle, and the last 4 have been stunning between both Eric Schaefer and Lawson Peel. Take a look. 2 laps to go from Indianapolis. Can we finish this under green? Schaefer with a gorgeous restart to sail ahead of the field. They're side by side. Here comes D'Elia to the bottom, the 53. The Art of Bricks. It's Schaefer.
Trap boom.
Peel unsuccessful. Eric Schaefer out ahead. Eric Schaefer stays undefeated at Indianapolis and wins at the Brickyard.
We trying to laugh, we not the grand for my
I'm up when the sun down. I sleep when my heart don't pound. I'm off the ground, you couldn't with my bounce.
And it's funny how that keeps happening. No, obviously I want him to win if I can't win, and I think he would say the same about me.
Yeah.
Just one of those places that treats these 2 drivers very well. Eric Schaefer winning 2 races from seasons number 4 and 5, winning the next-gen races here, so that'll be big, especially as we cross this plane with the next-gen car tonight. And Lawson Peel, who won the last 2, season 6 fell in his favor after a hard-fought battle with Schaefer in those final laps, and then in season 7, just the absolute brawl with Brandon Hawkins last season under strategy and under a long green flag run. Look at the stats between those 2 drivers. 7.4 of an average finish in 5 starts for Schaefer, average of 2.3 in finishes for Lawson Peel in 4 starts at this 2.5-mile track. So there really is something special about driving at Indianapolis. They are the kings of the art as they try and capture a 5th consecutive victory for the team here at Indy. And to join us to give us more perspective is a driver who's won a pair of times in both of those season 4 and season 5 races here. That is Hampton, Virginia's Eric Schaefer. Eric, we appreciate the time. This is a track that has treated you fairly well. It's one of those that seems to be right in your back pocket. What is it going to take tonight to be right on the top step of the podium and capture your first win of season 8?
Honestly, Kenneth, I think you're going to have to manage the tires a whole lot here. Track position is going to be key because passing is going to be hard as crap, and just patience, man. I know typically I don't have the biggest patience in the world, but tonight I'm going to make sure I have patience and try to save my tires the best way I can.
You know, you won 2 next-gen races here at Indy, but obviously things have changed dramatically with this car. So you mentioned tire saving being a big deal. In what way do you maybe use that experience from the past several years, even including season 6, a race you were very close to winning at, to your teammate Lawson Peel? In what ways do you take those notes and try and amplify your chances of winning and be more disciplined in a race like this?
I don't know, because the car's changed so much since the last couple seasons. I'm just going to try to stay out of trouble as much as I can, just try to keep my nose clean and just try to manage the track position and the tires the best way I know how to.
Well, Eric, hopefully things go well. Maybe it's a 3rd victory here at this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We appreciate the time and best of luck when you guys take the green flag.
Yes, sir, Kenneth. I appreciate it, man. We're definitely going to try to get us one here.
That's Eric Schaefer's one pair of races trying to continue that trend. BBR did it last week. DBR, the other conglomerate, can try to do it this time around. And Keelan, I mean, we mentioned just the success of the teams in this series, how they've sort of banded against each other in this sense to become some of the higher-powered teams. We mentioned not stonks, but still kind of stonks, winning the championship for the teams last season. And DBR and BBR not entirely out of the fight either last season in those final few races. You know, we mentioned with Lawson and Eric how strong of a driver base they are. Things have very much changed in this series environmentally, but how do you think they'll try to handle this one and maybe gain some of that hunger to win tonight's event?
Well, you got to look back historically and how successful they have been at this racetrack in the past. I mean, 4 straight wins, like a They are on a roll, Kenneth. They are very good here. Lawson Peel, he had to verse the best of the series last year in Brandon Hawkins to get that victory in his, trophy case. And those two are second and third here at Indianapolis historically in lap sled, and they are the only multi-time winners here. So all signs point towards them being very strong today. And I don't think they'll have any trouble being fast today, Kenneth. Those guys are fast everywhere we go, and at a track where they have a lot of history and a very high average finish, they are very good at this racetrack. I don't think they'll have any trouble. It's just going to be up to these other teams to, look at that success that they have and, kind of set a target on who they are racing today.
And how special would it be for Eric Schaefer? Lawson Peel has tasted victory last season several times, but Eric hasn't won a race in 4 wide since May of 2023, back in Bristol Season 5 in the next-gen car. And you look even further ahead, Season 6 was his last official 4 wide win at the IRP racetrack with the Xfinity Series cars in a race that was also against his fellow teammate in Lawson Peel. So for Schaefer, if he can strike gold tonight, it would be a huge boost for his chance at a championship. Maybe try to turn the tide around in what has been, a last season and a half of a bit of unluckiness for the Virginia driver. Well, Indianapolis is a special place in the heart of many. It's a special place for us here on the KBueno Racing Network, and that's why in tonight's KBRN Moment in Time, we take ourselves back to 2022 and one of the greatest races we've had at Indy here in KBRN history with the Wark Dynamo Designs National Series. Welcome to today's KBRN Moment in Time. For this moment, it's the Wark Dynamo Designs National Series event from Indianapolis back in 2022. Pace truck makes the soft left all the way to pit road, and the pit wall separates the drivers ready to go green and the truck ready to come to a complete stall. Wyatt Tinsley, Austin Doran, the 05 and the 55 lead us to green, and the GGR presents the Brickyard 100. As one of the final races in the regular season, this trip to Indianapolis had weight to it, with former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Wyatt Tinsley leading the field early alongside Austin Doran and Josh Patterson. As the race developed into a green flag stretch past halfway, it was all about green flag stops. Several drivers nearly spinning to get onto pit road at such a high rate of speed, but Tinsley remained out in front and in control. That was until the first caution was brought out onto the racetrack with Mason Sweet with nearly 10 laps to go. This would set up a crucial late race restart with Canadian Jay Mulder at the front and Doran behind. Doran would sail Mulder into the corner to turn 3 to take the lead, and after another overtime attempt, Doran clung to his Chevrolet Camaro to end up taking his second victory of the Wark Dynamo Designs National Series season. While we see Doran compete in the SAC Cup Series nowadays on the KBueno Racing Network, this was just a slight reminder of what Doran has been able to do live on this channel. And that's today's KBRN Moment in Time. In some of our last KBRN Moments in Time, we've talked about drivers that are no longer racing and KBueno Racing Network, at least in terms of the leagues that we cover, but really cool, Keelan, to go back in time the last several years, see that Wark race and see Austin Doran at the top of the pylon, because we cover him on Thursdays every time he's with us in the SAC Cup Series. So kind of cool that we get to continue covering a name like Austin Doran, and several of those other names are still hanging around on iRacing that we tend to cover every now and then. So a cool moment in time, and a cool moment for Austin Doran getting a big time win.
That was a great win for him. Like you said right before we got to that, one of the greatest Indianapolis races here on KBueno Racing Network history. And Wark, it always knew how to put on a banger, Kenneth, back when it was active, and here on KBRN there are a lot of good memories there. And I know me and Charlie specifically, when we used to race the trucks every now and then in Wark, we had the Region Club esports cars. There's a lot of good memories that come out of Wark, and I miss it every now and then. I wonder how Brayson and Josh and all them are doing, because I don't think I've talked to them since it went defunct.
It was a very good series and a great moment there as well from the virtual Brickyard, and rather short races for the Dynamo Designs National Series. Lightning in a bottle, those races were. So much excitement. You even had a lot of storylines, even though the races weren't entirely that lengthy. Well, Indianapolis is, of course, a place that, like Daytona, needs no introduction at all. It's the racing capital of the world, 2.5 miles 4.023 kilometers around this 2.5-mile rectangle in Speedway, Indiana, right in the heart of the town. There's a golf course in here. There's a mini dirt track in here. There is everything you can find inside this venue. Host of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, host of the Brickyard 400, and host of a four-wide race for the 8th consecutive time. Keelan, we have not seen a season in which Indianapolis has not been part of the schedule. It is a very big staple.
Yeah, it is, and it's one of the most iconic tracks in the country for a reason, and that is why it makes the schedule every year. I've seen a lot more of this racetrack than I ever thought I would, Kenneth, when Charlie released a unlisted video of him sneaking around, or maybe I shouldn't say that too loud just in case somebody's listening. But Francisco gave us a look at how this car drives around this track by yourself, and this is going to be very different from the race conditions that these guys are going to face today. But Francisco's showing us kind of a mock qualifying lap here, and he is one of the best to do it here at this racetrack, as he has a lot of speed all the time. He showed us in 1 and 2 kind of how you got to get in here. You really got to find your braking point going into turn 1 and turn number 3, because that is going to be all your speed through the full corner. Get all the way down there to where that little rumble strip, if you will, is, and carry all that speed off into this second part of the corner. It is so unique in the fact that there are 2 different corners making up one corner, which I guess you could say that for every track, Kenneth, but you know what I mean. It's 2 different turns almost to get around here. It's a true 4-corner racetrack, and it's very unique to the NASCAR circuit.
4 corners that are the same banking at 9.2 degrees, but they all feel very different when you're in the middle of the short chutes, you're in the middle of the draft. And like Eric Schaefer told us in our interview earlier on tonight, in this pre-race show, it'll be about saving tires. It'll be about being disciplined in this kind of race, because this car is not the same that it used to be several months ago or even a couple years ago when Eric Schaefer and company won those 4-wide races at this very speedway. This is also one of those tracks that has been recently revitalized as part of the NASCAR 25 refresh, as iRacing is getting ready to develop and release their first ever console game, NASCAR 25. So on iRacing, they gave us Oval fans a treat of revitalizing every single venue on the NASCAR calendar. That did include the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the flesh. So we'll get to see it under a good look for the first time in 4-wide action. Last time we saw it was under the SAC Cup Series when they made their run here not too long ago. So practice coming down to the final 2.5 minutes here from Speedway, Indiana. And Keelan, I guess final thoughts before we wrap up this Thousand Islands Career pre-race show. It's going to be wild. Indy is known to be all about the chaos, but also about opening up the book for strategy. In what way could you see someone standing out, whether it be through that strategy or just trying to find any sort of track position?
Well, we'll get into it with the keys a little bit later during our pace laps, but track position is going to be so important in how you stay up front. That is going to be the key to winning this race, in my opinion. You have to be starting up front, because if you're starting deep in the pack, it's going to be very hard to make up positions. Eric Schaefer said it. It's going to be hard to pass tonight, and it's really hard when you're mid-pack to not get unsettled with the air and how it reacts with this next-gen car. You got to be up front. That is going to be the key to victory, Kenneth, and it's going to start in qualifying here under our commercial break. These guys are going to have to qualify and qualify well.
Have any predictions on who might win this race tonight?
I don't have a clue, Kenneth, to be honest. I think DBR is going to be very strong. I'm gonna take a name out of a hat, though, Kenneth. I think Francisco is going to get it done, because I remember I did the SAC race, I believe, at Indianapolis, and he started on pole and he led almost every lap, and he would have won if it wasn't for a lap car. So I think Francisco knows his way around this racetrack. If he qualifies on pole like he did at Nashville, I'm not sure anybody's beating him.
Looking for his 2nd consecutive pole, not only this season, but looking for his 2nd consecutive pole and front row start in this racetrack format. Last season, in the race that we didn't cover on the KBueno Racing Network, he started his Toyota Camry on the front row and on the pole. Didn't win the race, but of course it was a good start for the Hialeah, Florida native, and it's looking good for him right now in practice as we look forward to this race. Well, that'll do it for the Thousand Islands Career pre-race show. Thank you so much for joining us on behalf of Keelan Belsha and myself, Kenneth Bueno. I want to thank you so much once again for joining us for the pre-race show, but don't go anywhere. 4-wide racing from the Brickyard comes your way next.
Let's go racing!
Welcome to the Thousand Islands Cruette in Clayton, New York. We're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Come in for a tasting and our helpful and knowledgeable staff will help you find the perfect olive oils or vinegars to add that perfect touch to your next meal. We have monthly specials and sales as well as new pairings and recipes, so there's always something new to try when you visit. The Thousand Islands Cruette on James Street in Clayton. And don't forget, hey, no touchy the tankies.
There's only one fuel that can drive the performance you demand from your car. New 94 Octane, the highest octane on the market, only at Sunoco.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How's it going, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini. I have a hoagie. I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
That's my bonus for my quota. Boy, don't nobody home. I just get a check in the jail with the set. All we do is rap. Ain't worried about next one. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here in the on us.
As the journey to the championship unfolds, the field looks onward to the beacon standing high above one of the most sacred lands in the racing world, right at the Capitol. We're live from the virtual Brickyard in Speedway, Indiana. The KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to round number 4 in the Season 8 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Glad that you're joining us on the KBueno Racing Network for another edition of 4-wide action. 3 races and 3 different winners down. We've got another chance to add a different name to the winning column in 2025. We're alongside Keelan Belsha in the booth. I am Kenneth Bueno. We'll hopefully be joined by our driver analyst tonight and fellow booth member in Francisco Bacalhau shortly. Keelan, this race, in its history through 4-wide, through every single season, it has seen the adaptation of new rookies, new champions, new drivers that have put themselves in the fold for a 4-wide title. And we joined Indy relatively early in Season 8, which so far has proven to be chaotic, but also very competitive as well.
And I think tonight is going to add to that parity, Kenneth. 3 races, 3 different winners. I think tonight we could see the same exact thing because a lot of guys here who have had success in the past at Indianapolis do not have that win yet in the bank. So it's a new opportunity to punch your ticket to the playoffs. And like Jaden Porter did last week, there is no better time than early in the season to get that victory and punch your ticket to the playoffs. That is what a lot of people are going to be looking at today, and it's all starting in qualifying right now, Kenneth. That is going to be one of the keys to success in a very aero-dependent racetrack that is Indianapolis.
And a pair of drivers trying to make sure they're at the top of the board in qualifying, Eric Schaefer and Lawson Peel. They've won the last 4 races combined here at Indianapolis. So in any case, DBR really likes this place in many cases. Doesn't matter what kind of car you race on it, whether it be the next gen or the Xfinity car, so they certainly have a shot.
They certainly do, Kenneth. And we're coming off a track last week in Nashville where a team has dominated, and it has been BBR, and they got another victory at that racetrack last week. And that trend, if trends continue, it could be the same as we see today with DBR rattling off a 5th straight victory at this racetrack. And this 4 wide is crazy to me, Kenneth, because we see so many of these trends that, you know, we may just think are coincidence just come true the very next time we go to one of those racetracks. So I don't think it would surprise me or you either if DBR were to get their 5th straight victory today, even with all the talent that we have in the field tonight.
Schaefer's got a really good car, a very good tenure here at Indianapolis, but so does his teammate, the Season 4 champion of this series in Lawson Peel. He's won the last 2 from Season 6 with the Xfinity Series car, and then Season 7 last time we made this trip out to Speedway, Indiana with the Next Gen machines, in which he had to face Brandon Hawken, ended up winning that outward battle. But even though Peel has been one of the best drivers here, he's never led the most laps in his last 2 wins. Always his opponent, the driver he usually races in through the end portion of the event. Usually they have the most laps led. He always takes the checkered flag, but he's had a miserable start to Season 8. Only one top 10 in the first 3 races after a 7th place finish and a good recovery from the Music City and Nashville Superspeedway last Wednesday. But can we take down the final moments before qualifying comes down to an end? It looks like qualifying is going to be right in the hands of BBR. I'm not sure if Bacalhau will be able to lock down a 2nd consecutive pole effort here in Season 8, but it will be a front row start nonetheless. And lots of good names in the top 5. Tristan Bailey and AJ Green, a pair of drivers who stood out monstrously at Nashville Superspeedway, led laps and were up front for a majority of that race.
They certainly did. They had a lot of good runs last week at Nashville. A lot of the names that we see on the top of the board right now were guys that we saw near the front of the pack last week at Nashville. So trends continuing again, but these guys are going to have to be prepared for how that car is going to feel going into turn 1 today, because the way your car maneuvers during a qualifying lap is not going to be the same as it maneuvers in that pack when we go down into the corner. And I was a victim of getting my weight cross from 20 feet behind me, and it just snapped me sideways and wrecked me and sat here at this racetrack. So these guys are going to have to be prepared for air hitting their car in every possible direction, and that is exactly what's going to happen when everybody's bunched up going into turn number 1. But that is why qualifying is so important. So for guys like Francisco right now, they're doing very well.
We'll keep an eye on things as qualifying comes down to a close, but here is where we are in Season 8 for the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. It's been a rather eventful first 3, from a super speedway, a short track, and then that intermediate tire eater track of Nashville Superspeedway. And we join Indianapolis at a very odd point of the season because there still is so much regular season to be raced. Montreal will be up north in Canada next week on October 1st. Our good friend Keelan Busha, that's his birthday. He'll be celebrating with us in virtual Canada before we head out to Auto Club, Kentucky, Bristol, Pocono, Dover, Talladega, and Chicagoland Speedway before we eventually end up at the All-Star Race, which is now the newly placed Homestead Miami Speedway. No longer the championship finale, that award given to the Auto Club Speedway, which has hosted several opening races in 4 wide over the last 3 or so seasons. And we are getting news from our penalty report that Gabriel Dahari, who is at the top end of qualifying right now in this final minute and a half, he'll get an end-of-line penalty before we drop the green flag tonight. So in any case, I'm not sure whether pole award will be given to Dahari, even though he'll give up the spot, but it does mean Francisco Bacalhau will be starting on the front row and will be the control car when we get the green. So that's kind of a proverbial pole, if you will.
It will, but it's going to be interesting to see how the control car fires off on the top side of the racetrack. I was always under the impression that we go on green either way, so I really don't think it is much of an advantage, at least on the initial start, for Francisco. But Dahari, he will have to serve that EOL even if he finishes with the fastest lap time. He also has a drive-through, if I'm looking at the penalty report from Nashville correctly, so he will have to try to find a way to stay on the lead lap, but this is a very long racetrack, so that drive-through should not be an impediment to his success today, as long as he can climb his way up through the field. But this is going to be this is going to be a great race, Kenneth. I'm very excited. These guys know how to race very well. Even when the car and track don't want to race, they just want to run laps. These guys know how to make them race, and I think that is something that we will come to expect tonight at Indianapolis.
Well, it looked like Dahari flew too close to the sun last week in Nashville. One of those clips on the highlight package that we rolled for you during the 1,000 Islands Correct pre-race show was his contact with Eric Schaefer. It was a bit questionable in that sense. Mid-corner, made the same move against his teammate Steven Maggio, and for causing several incidents, he also spun on the white flag lap, coming down to the checkered flag. He'll get the drive-through for this start. The end of line, even though he qualified on the front row, and he has a 4-race probation. The same goes for Eric Schaefer. After some moves in Nashville, he's got a 4-race probation as well. Same deal for Kevin D'Elia, who will have a 1-lap hold at his next start, which should be tonight if he rolls off to the green flag. And our good friend J.J. Hill made a mistake in Nashville Superspeedway. Looks like he is suspended over the penalty threshold for this race, so our good friend will not be able to join us on the racetrack when we take it in several moments' time. But the iRacing official pace car has the field in tow. We'll bring you down trackside and give you tonight's Charlie Byer Photography starting grid on behalf of race number 4 in this 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where it is the Texan Gabriel Dahari technically getting pole. He will not be on the front row when we take the green flag, as he has that penalty for starting the race. Our good friend Francisco Bacalhau, he'll be on the front row on the outside and should be the leading car when we get down to turn 1 on lap number 1. Back in row 2 is where you'll find Eric Schaefer. His number 3 car is proverbially starting in 3rd, and Tristan Bailey had a whale of a run last week at Nashville Superspeedway. He'll try to piggyback off of that success, maybe get a race win for the first time this season. He'll be on the outside in 4th place. And then right behind, the Overcorrect Racing number 48 of AJ Green, the North Carolinian, starts 5th. And Jaden Porter trying to go back-to-back for the first time in his career, at least in terms of Season 8. The Kentucky native rolls off from the outside in position number 6. Back in row number 4 is Mikey Neal trying to recover after an early end to his race at Nashville last Wednesday. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno had a shot to win last Wednesday and looking for his 2nd victory of the season after taking the dub at Richmond. Juan Escamilla rolls off in 9th inside of row number 5, and rookie driver Michael Walsh for the GOAT Incorporated camp won the stunner at Daytona to win off the season. He'll try to get his 2nd victory from Indy. He'll be in 10th place when we start the race.
Steven Maggio in a 51 machine starts on the inside of row number 6 in 11th, and Kyle Benson, coming off the suspension he served at Nashville, will be starting in the 12th position tonight in Indianapolis. Row number 7, a 2-time winner here and defending winner here at Indianapolis, Lawson Peel in the 12 machine with Jonathan Juergensmeyer to his outside, who has had a stellar start to his season. Row number 8 consists of Drinking Bros Racing, Brandon Banks in the number 5, Dusty Applin in a 16 to his outside in row number 8. Row number 9 consists of Nicholas Bauman in the 88 machine with Randall Payne in the 46, looking to rebound after a rough start to his season. The 68 of Alexander Schumacher in the 68 will start in 19th. Craig Lautenslager in the 13 will roll out 20th.
Back in 21st is where you'll find the Canadian Curtis Kelly, Adam Alashire in his number 10 machine on his outside in 22nd spot. And then the DBR 89 of CJ Munier out of Verona, New Jersey. And rookie Randy Showers has struggled over his first 2 4-wide starts, looking to piggyback and hopefully get a better run tonight from Indianapolis. Kip Easley rejoins us in a brand new look number 18 car from 25th. And Winchester, Tennessee's Lance Hill on his outside in 26th place. Row number 14 will feature a pair of drivers itching for a race victory. That includes league owner Tyler Murray in 27th and Daniel Moore in his 1,000 Islands the Corvette Ford Mustang. His 77 is 28th place. Craig Parks will roll his number 17 off from 29th. Timothy Cook Jr. in his number 19 car outside in the top 30. And behind them, Christopher Bishop and Brandon Gillis will roll off 31st and 32nd. Trevor Haley, the first of the field not to take a qualifying time. The Indiana driver going to be 33rd, Michael Newbraw in 34th, and behind them, Chris Fowler in his number 11, Eric Stewart in 36. He'll bring to the end of the field 18 rows deep from Speedway, Indiana. All right, Keelan, well, you were previewing it during our pre-race show earlier on tonight. What are the keys to victory? I'm sure there are many here at Indy.
Car and track position is the most important one, and nobody has a better look at the windshield right now than Francisco Bacallao. This is the position he started in at SAC here a couple months ago when he went on to virtually dominate that race before a lap car got into him. He'll be looking to do that. All these guys starting up front are going to have a shot, but if you're deeper in the pack like Trevor Haley, who didn't get a qualifying lap, it's going to be trouble for you. Watch that wake of the car in front of you and the car behind you. If somebody, 20 feet behind you, if they cross you, they can unsettle your race car, or you can do the same and unsettle your race car crossing over the wake of the car in front of you. And there's only one line really to run here, so you have to put your car in the perfect position. Teamwork down these straightaways is going to be important. If you have a teammate in front of you, or if you know that run is coming to the car on the outside, follow that car on the outside, or you're not going to be able to make up any ground. Cars staying side by side in front of you are not a benefit to you. And do not burn out on the bricks, Kenneth. For our race winner, whoever that may be tonight, it is just disrespectful when we come to Indianapolis.
You want to kiss the bricks, not lay rubber down on them. You want to be laying down rubber everywhere else but that yard of bricks on the front straightaway. So hopefully a good message for whoever ends up taking the checkered flag tonight as the field comes across the turns 1 and 2. They'll see the back straightaway for the final time before we take the green flag. Well, let's join our race analyst and our good friend in the broadcast booth, usually when he's not making part-time starts, our good friend Francisco Bacallao. And Francisco, it's not an official pole award because you had the second best time in qualifying, but it is technically still pole. So welcome back to the front row.
Oh, great to be back here.
Well, Francisco, just quickly before we get the green flag, your thoughts on what is going to take to win this race. You had the pole here last season. What's needing to change this time around to actually get it done and get the checkered flag?
If I'm not sideways but by turn 2 on this opening lap, it'll be a better start than last season, but the track position is going to mean so much more this time around than it did the last time, and even a lot of these races. I think track position means now more than it did before the update, so look for any kind of moves that'll mean keeping track position alive.
All right, well, Francisco, we appreciate the time. Best of luck in tonight's race.
Thank you. I got my Celsius pink lemonade with me for tonight.
All right, good-looking car and a good-looking driver as well, trying to take away his first victory of the season. Picked up the pole last time we raced out at Nashville Superspeedway. He'll be in control on the front row alongside Eric Schaefer, former winner of this Indy race from several seasons ago. 200 miles from the Brickyard and Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's a pair of experienced drivers on the front row. Bacallao and Schaefer bring us to the green flag. We are racing in race number 4 of Season 8 from Indy. Prophecy laid out for Bacallao. He does not get sideways, and neither does anyone else in this field. Halfway through lap number 1, battle for third in turn 3. Green underneath Bailey as Bacallao pulls away with the top spot.
Green, he's going to get clear for that third position and start to see guys single file out. Tristan Bailey on the outside of Mikey Neal right there, trying to take that 4th spot away. It was really a good start for Eric Schaefer. He got a great jump and had about a half car out in front of Francisco, but that bottom is just so much more preferred at this racetrack as we see guys kind of blocking and breaking draft as they go back down into turn number 1. That is something we're going to see a lot of today, Kenneth. You do not want to give up any track position. Like Francisco said on the pace laps, we are going to see guys blocking each other down to the front stretch wall if it means hanging on to that position. As Tristan Bailey and Mikey Neal continue to battle it out for the 4th position, looks like Mikey Neal may concede for that spot.
Really all about navigating the dirty air as well. This is going to be one of those tracks alongside Nashville from the last several weeks that really will punish you. If you sit behind the wake of a driver in front of you, that car will take off near the outside wall, and it can be very tough to find any sort of that rotation when there aren't that many lines available. We'll see that over long green flag stretches that the middle lane will start to become a little more viable, but not entirely so, as Mikey Neal holds on to what's going to be 5th place, and everybody has mostly single filed after this first lap or so and into lap number 3.
Mikey Neal, he conceded that position to Tristan Bailey. Bailey did a good job up on the top side of somebody. It's really hard to maintain that position, but that kind of shows you how hard it is going to be to pass deeper in this field. Even if you get the runs to the inside, if you can't have that pass almost completed by the time you get to the short shoot in between the corners, it's going to be hard to make up track position, and that is why your qualifying lap was so important, and that is why restarts will be so important. The easiest time to make up positions is when everybody is double file. As we start to see everybody string out and get single file, it's going to be a lot harder to make up spots. Tristan Bailey in at 35. He's been holding it down for Murray Reedy Motorsports up in the front end of these races these last couple weeks. Good start for him.
Sort of the unsung hero of this Murray Reedy Motorsports camp over the last 3 races to start off Season 8. 2 of them have been qualifications inside the top 5, and even a good run tonight, qualifying well inside the top 10. So far, locking down a top 4 spot as he tries to chase down fellow driver up in front, the UNC Charlotte number 48 machine of AJ Green. So we look further back, not many battles on the racetrack as the dirty air and the aero wash has kicked in, but someone's trying to jaws their way through the field. That's the Exalta Chevrolet of Lawson Peel, Columbus, Mississippi native, who only has 1 top 10 effort. 7th place in Nashville after a recovery drive from a spin midway at around lap 87. He did a good job, Keelan, of putting himself sort of back into the conversation, but boy, has it been more of a struggle than it's ever been, really, for the former champion of this series. It seemed like here at Indy, it's a track where he seems to make easy work out of the field, but so far, not a great qualifying effort. It was inside the top 15, and he remains relegated back to 13th. The attempt on Juergensmeyer for 12th place failed, and he's got his teammate Banks right behind him at the exit of turn 2.
You know, it's crazy, Kenneth, when we talk about Lawson Peel, he won so many races last season, but I can count more than fingers I have on my hand about how many times he said he did not feel confident in this next-gen car and how much better he feels in that Xfinity car. And I think with this new update and dirty air and aero packing really coming through with this new build, I think that has kind of shown him his weaknesses a little bit more. To not to say he's a weak driver, but everybody has their weaknesses, and I think the next gen could be one of his, and it's just a struggle to learn this thing for Lawson Peel as we start to see a big battle of BBR race cars heating up right there. Ethan Fonseca Moreno getting around teammate Jaden Porter, and there we see Steven Maggio and that gold Eris number 51 start to climb his way slowly but surely through the field to the back of his teammates.
And when Lawson talked to us in the Season 6 championship race, at least before we ran that event at Homestead, Miami, he told us that the switch to the Xfinity Series car was one of humility. He had to really reset mentally, find ways to be fast in that car, and it led him to a potential championship shot. It was very much welcoming for Peel when we returned to the next-gen cars last season, but again, this car is different. We ran the entirety of Season 7 without knowing what the new next-gen updates would look like on the sim, but after the effects have taken place, it's a whole different ballgame for 2025's edition of this series. So we'll keep in mind how Lawson moves to the field and whether he's able to do so, currently still logged back in 13th place. So a pair of stories inside the remainder of this top 10, at least the back half of it. We watched that train continue behind the BBR Chevrolet of Mikey Neal running up inside the top 5. Moreno right behind, Jaden Porter sitting 7th. And then there's that golden 51 car. Steven Maggio, his Toyota, who won many races last season, ended up taking 4 race victories leading up to a Championship 5 appearance for the first time in his career. He's coming off of probably the worst race of his season. Keelan Belsha, it was an abysmal ending to his Nashville Superspeedway race, an event in which he had a really fast car, but then got turned around by Moreno during one of the cautions midway through the race, and then crashed several times leading up to the checkered flag, ended up with 19th, and still has yet to find a finish better than 13th in 2025. And then Kyle Benson right behind him, who's sitting in 9th. He didn't show up to Nashville, not because he didn't want to, but because he could not. He was suspended for the race after intentionally dumping Eric Schaefer after the checkered flag at Richmond. So safe to say the 2 golden cars sitting 8th and 9th, Keelan, they are looking for a monumental comeback. Still a lot of season to get things done, though. Put themselves right in the playoffs and could be the turning point in Indy if they have a good one this evening.
Yeah, we talk about a struggle week for both of them in Nashville. Steven, he had a really fast car, but he did not get a qualifying lap in, so he had to climb his way through the field. And we got about a third of the way through the show, and he finally found that track position. But then it seemed every time he found that track position, Kenneth, he ended up getting in trouble and getting damage on the nose of that race car. He got it repaired once, but on that late race restart with Juan Escamilla going around and getting the damage from Ethan Fonseca Moreno, it became too much for him to bear as we got towards the end of that race. As we see Jaden Porter kind of pull away from Maggio there. Kind of you can really see how these cars drive here, Kenneth, and how that dirty air affects the guy behind you. And you see these kind of bubbles of air built between these race cars. That's not because these guys don't want to be all up on each other, racing each other for position. It's because they really can't, because of how these cars drive through these corners. You can get close, but as the closer you get, the more dirty air gets pushed from that car in front of you to the nose of your race car, taking away downforce, unsettling that race car. That is what all these guys are struggling with. It is a struggle to gain track position, especially when everybody is as good as they are up in this top 10.
Our Charlie Byer Photography onboard camera with the Season 5 champion of this series as he tries to track down his teammate in Moreno. That should be a spot inside the top 6 as Maggio, the fellow teammate, tries to chase him down from the 8th spot. But if you're in a track like Indianapolis, a venue which really doesn't conduce itself to multi-groove racing, how do you get around that bubble of dirty air when you're sitting in the middle of traffic like Porter is right now?
I think it has become a lot harder to do with this new next-gen build, but that is something everybody is dealing with. I mean, it's not like Porter is the only one with the update. Everybody has this update, and everybody is feeling how hard it is to make up that position. So you really just have to maintain your race car, and you can kind of see the snake forming there. AJ Green kind of falling off towards this long run. That is going to stack everybody up behind him, and everybody's going to get a little bit more impatient around Green. So that is really all I feel like you can do if you're a guy like Jaden Porter, is conserve your stuff and wait on somebody in front of you to burn their stuff up, make a mistake, stack everybody up. That is when it's going to be easiest to maintain track position, because look at how close everybody is down this backstretch as Porter looks to the inside. Steven Maggio was maybe looking to go underneath him, and he is, as the battle heats up between them.
It's been so frustrating for a lot of those other drivers to try to get around UNC Charlotte number 48 as he continues to hold on to 3rd. That's the biggest group of drivers we see so far in this main pack. While Eric Schaefer and Francisco Bacalhau, boy, they have really put themselves in their own zip code. Bacalhau out by just about 3 seconds as inside pass, bit of physicality for Steven Maggio at the exit of turn 4. And the same deal for Kyle Benson, just swooping on by and saying, hey, a 2 for 1 is a good deal. You'll take it to the bottom end, and Benson moves up to a race high 8th. Maggio steps up into the 7th spot. And for AJ Green, it has really been a step up like no other after a long streak of not even leading laps in the late portions of Season 7. He led a few laps in those final few races of the regular season and the playoffs as well. Homestead, Miami had a car worthy enough to lead 4 laps. The race right before that ended up leading 10. And in 2 races this season, he's led a combined 76 laps. That's the most that we've seen from Green in a rather long while. So for the Season 3 champion of this race, who saw his teammate Colin Forster win this when they took on the track with the Gen 6 cars back in just about 2021 in Season 3, Green has really found newfound life with this next-gen car and with the brand new update. But there's Bacalhau, a really impressive start, Keelan, and like he told us right before we went green, it's a much better start from last season because he went sideways off of turn 2 and gave up the lead almost instantaneously like a baton in a relay race. Now it seems like he's taken that pole and he's been able to really move forward and really separate from everyone else. 3.5 seconds to Eric Schaefer now.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned on the pre-race show, Kenneth. You put me on the spot, said, who do I think is going to win? And I said Francisco because of a situation like this. If he gets on the pole, he was going to be very hard to beat tonight, and that is showing to be the case here in the early stages of this race. It's just so much easier if you're a guy like Francisco who can just kind of space out and drive this racetrack kind of like an endurance race where you're just logging laps and logging laps. And if you get that clean air on your nose, it makes it so much easier to gap out. As that Gabriel Dehari in the 72, remember, he set the fastest lap in the qualifying period. He served an EOL and he served a drive-through on lap number 1. So his track position is all out the window. He is really just waiting for that first caution to fly so he can insert himself back into this race. He's sitting deep in the 30s right now.
You almost wonder that if Dehari had started on pole and did not have the penalties, how different of a race we may have. Would Dehari be in control as far as Bakayao is against Schaefer? Would Bakayao be right on his tail? Would we have seen a change for the race lead? A lot of what ifs, but Dehari is going to have to fight himself through the trenches alongside Michael Newbraw running 33rd and 34th on the racetrack. As it stands, Dehari did not lose a lap, most interestingly enough. So here at Indy, you can have as big of a penalty as Dehari had before the green flag, and you can still remain on the lead lap. Definitely helps that he started on the front row, so he gave up all the spots and then had to make the penalty, but still a worthy topic of conversation should we find ourselves in pit road strategy, which we may end up in within the next few. So 15 laps down from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and here's one of our first challenges for position down the back straightaway. Large run by Moreno. He'll send it down to turn 3. Neal will give him the space and the position with a chance to fight back. Backs up in the short shoot to turn 4. Moreno up to P5.
That's how you make these passes. If you're a guy like Moreno in the position you're in, they're going to just, oh, he smacks the wall right there. It looked like everybody smacked the wall off of turn number 4 right there. No harm, no foul, as long as no toe links are bent. As there we see Jaden Porter sending it 3 wide to the inside in turn number 1. Benson ends up pulling away as he's trying to get that spot back from Maggio. He feels like he's faster than that 51 right now, but this is all a battle because of that AJ Green car in the 48. You know, slowing everybody up and stacking this big line up, and Tristan Bailey in the 35. He's forced to stay behind him because Green has just enough clean air to be able to get the speed down the straightaways and stay in front of that 35. So it really just frustrates everybody when you're behind a car like Green right now who's slowing everybody up, as Porter gets to the inside of Maggio in turn number 3. Through turn number 4, trying to stick with him, but look at that run off that 51's going to get. 28's going to have to get up and side draft him if he wants to stay in it, but in front of them, Benson making a move on Mikey Neal. These guys getting really racy just outside the top 5.
Not easy to make these moves, and down low goes Benson. Fires off on Maggio and rotates enough to sail right in front at the exit of turn 1. What a move by Benson down the straightaway, but it's something that we'll see. Maybe a bit different from Nashville, where you could separate yourself a little bit more when drivers are loose in the middle of the corners. Here at Indy, because all of those corners are really shallow in their banking at 9.2 degrees, most of the passes will happen down here. These long back straightaways, long front straightaways will give you all that time and the draft to be able to settle in and make a move. Now Moreno continues to knock off driver after driver. Got around Mikey Neal the lap or 2 before. Now to the inside of Tristan Bailey for 4th place.
And Moreno has done a really good job conserving his race car and having enough 17 deep into this green flag run to be able to kind of carve and make positions up, as he's going to take 4th from Tristan Bailey right here, barring a challenge from the 35. He's going to stick with him now in this short shoot, smacks the wall a little bit, and through turn number 2, Moreno should be able to pick off the 35. Bailey going to get up in front of him and clear him, and now he's going to set his sights on AJ Green in that 48, who has shown to struggle here as we get deeper into this run. He's going to try to run down that 48 right there, put himself on a podium position. Moreno has had a lot of speed so far this season, currently sitting as the points leader, so trying to rebound and maybe become the first multi-time champion after a bit of a championship hangover last year.
And something that we have not seen still in this series. Again, testament to how competitive this field has become over the last few years, from Green and Colin Forster almost being those trailblazers, if you think about it, right? In Season 3, they stepped onto the scene and they made a big time statement that they could go out and win the championship, even though they were rookie drivers, as Neal was fighting the wheel at the entry of turn 1 and down at turn 2, the largest cluster of cars, now 2 rows deep of 2 wide action. Bailey fighting back to the high side. Neal down low. Maggio trying to help the draft on the back straightaway.
Yeah, and everybody going to the top right there to draft each other is going to hurt Neal's chances at getting Bailey, and now he's going to have to get to a point where he just has to defend Kyle Benson in the 38 right there. As the 8's on the inside of the 38, maybe a bit of contact there going into the short chute. Staying on the inside, caution comes out for the first time here on lap number 19. So that is going to take that battle out. And where did Kyle Benson go?
It's Benson.
No. And Lawson Peel.
A huge crash involving two of the veteran drivers in this series. And the defending winner of the last two in trouble out of turn 4.
We got that onboard look with Mikey Neal, and it looked like there may have been a bit of contact there in the short chute, but we couldn't see behind Neal to see that Benson was the one in trouble. Lawson Peel also in this. Nicholas Bauman in the 88 also may have gotten a piece.
So how did this start? Turn 3. And Neal is still fighting on the bottom. I don't know if there was registered contact there, Keelan, between those two cars. I mean, Neal had been blinking in and out, and then there's the aftermath. Peel trying to escape the mess, gets into Juan Escamilla, who gets involved in a crash for the second straight week. And then it's Nicholas Bauman that also ends up in it. So here's a better look from the high-angle camera. And there is registered contact on iRacing, but again, the connection issues for Neal didn't really help the cause. And then Peel in reaction swerves out of the way. A hard hit for Bauman, gets right into Escamilla. And after our longest green flag run of the night, which happened to run 20 laps near the pit road window, ultimately it ends up in smoke for many of the big-time names in the field.
That is 4 strong drivers taken out in that, and that is just unfortunate right there. You know, I mean, nothing Benson really did wrong there. He was just holding his line on the outside. Nothing Neal did wrong either. It's just the connectivity issues that are going to take out several fast race cars. And that's going to end Lawson Peel's hope for 3 in a row as drivers hit pit road and look to get service here a quarter of the way home in Indianapolis. And from here, you can probably make it on one more stop, possibly. So everybody probably getting a full tank of fuel, 4 tires, if I had to guess.
Looking for the 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles to try and carry them the way through this next run. Drivers on pit road now. Eric Schaefer and Bacalhau trying to beat each other off of the lane. Mikey Neal trying to potentially repair his race car, but for the run off of pit road, it looks like Bacalhau will have the left side jacks down. Schaefer will look to beat him off the lane, and he does. What a pit road exit for Eric Schaefer. Now, will that stand? I think it will. What a stop by the 3 car.
Yeah, I mean, he got everything he could coming off of pit road right there. And you're going to have to hope that the iRacing admin team did not see that and cause you a pit road penalty. But he just kind of gassed it up in between the sections and tried to beat Francisco off. He got a better launch out of his stall, and right there, big push off of pit road. Looks like Francisco was a little more conservative there. And I believe Schaefer may pay the price for it.
And he will. So same deal that Bacalhau had to deal with last week in Nashville, in which he thought he had the lead off of pit road, but just a little bit too eager on the gas pedal. Same thing will strike the Bass Pro Shops Club Chevrolet of Eric Schaefer, who had such a good run, had run second the entirety of the green flag stretch and didn't find any pressure from behind. Now we'll have to scrap to the back of the pack. And after our first yellow of this race, it really has blown things wide open. Now AJ Green will have a chance to run on the outside of the front row. Potential chance for Tristan Bailey to get the runner-up spot. And again, all these guys that are kind of running in the top 10, lots of intricate drivers that are now starting to put themselves in the midst of this conversation. Michael Walls, Daytona winner, look at where he sits. P6 after running on a 14.5-second pit stop, but it was a great stop nonetheless for the 60 car. I mentioned Jonathan Juergensmeyer now running top 5, and Brandon Banks kind of silently working his way through the field. He'll be top 10 when we get the restart.
Yeah, a lot of fast drivers have started to find their way to the front. These cautions really playing a benefit. Gabriel Dahari also with that yellow is going to put himself back with the pack, so an opportunity to make positions up. But that really is unfortunate for Schaefer in the 3 car, and I think that was him understanding that the race off pit road is so important because of how this race has gone so far, that Francisco got out front and he built nearly a 50 car length lead. That is how important that clean air is. So that was just Schaefer trying to be aggressive, knowing he has to be in front of Francisco if he wants opportunity to get that clean air and get out in front of them, because Francisco on the outside here is going to have an opportunity after Schaefer's penalty to do the exact same thing he just did on the last run. So the 30 car looking good right now.
Bacalhau kind of looked like on that first run Noah Lyles, if he faced literally any regular civilian that doesn't race track, it would be a big time difference. For Bacalhau, that's what it looked like. It was very easy for him to step out in front, really never look back. But just like Jaden told us last week during the interview after the win, he said clean air was so important. And going back into that race, he told us in the interview at the time that he set his fastest laps while on the oldest set of tires in the final few under overtime. And I kind of looked at him, you know, I listened to that and I was like, maybe that's not fully true. I looked back at the in-sim data. His fastest lap time was set on the white flag lap at the end of that race. It took 157 laps for Porter to set his fastest lap of the race, even on old Goodyear Eagles. So for Francisco Bacalhau, he's on fresh tires now alongside the rest of the field. All he needs is to be mistake-free through the first two. The aero packing seems to be a very big point of conversation. So Bacalhau chooses the outside lane. He'll have his teammate Mikey Neal to support from the outside of row 2. Green flag, restart lap 23.
That outside's going to get up and moving here as Neal and Green going to be side by side. We see Porter taking it 3 wide down into that first corner under Jonathan Juergensmeyer. Tristan Bailey in the 35 slipping up a little bit. And this is where it's going to get really aggressive here, Kenneth. On these restarts, you're going to have to watch the air and how it reacts to your race car. Everybody on top of each other right now. This is where the dirty air is going to upset you the most.
And where Porter, he needed to make that swing down move where track position matters so much, still clinging to the inside of his teammate Imaggio down at turn 3. And Juergensmeyer right in front was able to escape the shackles of this side-by-side battle for positions inside the back half of this top 10. Now inside for third, Michael Walls. How about this driver, the man who's building his 4-wide portfolio after winning Daytona and trying to continue for a championship shot down low to turn 1.
He punched his ticket to the playoffs at Daytona, Kenneth. Remember, these races are now all about making a name for yourself and showing that that was not a fluke win and that you are somebody to be messed with when we get into the playoffs. Michael Walls inserting himself into the 3rd position. AJ Green stuck behind him. Tristan Bailey now looking to his inside. He may have got a little loose off that corner there. Stephen Maggio presses it 3 wide through the middle under Jonathan Juergensmeyer. And now if Stephen Maggio can find some track position, that could be somebody who could find his way to the front by the end of this thing. To the inside of Juergensmeyer. Can't quite clear him down to short shoot, but in turn 4, he will indeed.
Like peeking through the middle of a cornfield, Maggio had to thin that margin out in the middle of 3 wide. Tristan Bailey down the bottom, and the struggles continue. Now inside, there's Adam Alishire. Bailey wants more. He'll help the Ford Mustang down the inside to turn 1, and Jaden Porter will have nowhere to go. Near contact in the first corner, and the Ohio native, the Coors Light Ford Mustang of Alishire, race high top 10.
Porter's going to fight his way back around that 10, but what a good run for Adam Alishire, a guy who has a lot of veteran experience here in 4 wide, finding himself up towards the front now. It has been a rough start to his season, Kenneth. You think back to Nashville, he was involved in several caution flags. Daytona, he was also involved in some, but now he's starting to find his way up into the 8th position. Doing very well so far for himself.
And it only takes 1 race. I mean, we talk about in a playoff system, 1 win can change the entire complexion of your season. So you really want to be able to step forward in the right way, be consistent as well. But for Alishire, tonight could be that turning point in a way when she will be able to use a good run to carry that momentum, be a little more confident the next race, and just continue to build on the trend. His last race win in the 4-wide series came back in season number 6, won at Daytona in a Toyota Camry for the, at the time, Stonks Motorsports Campus number 91, but made the switch over to the 10 after the offseason of season number 7. And for Alishire, a great run building for his Ford Mustang as he challenges the 4 cars right in front. Jaden Porter, Jonathan Juergensmeyer, Stephen Maggio, and the man in front of this group, just like he was in the first leg of this race, 4th place in AJ Green. There's somebody down pit road. That'll be Juan Escamilla. He picked up all that damage from the opening caution of this race, but the common thread remains the same. Keelan Bacalhau has stepped out big time. It's nearly a full second between himself and the Wake Forest, North Carolina native of Mikey Neal.
And he drives this racetrack with so much integrity, Kenneth. He just knows his way around this track through all four corners. He is very calm, very collected. He is very good. I mean, there's only so many synonyms I can say about Francisco here. There is just something about a guy who gets into a rhythm. That 30, he finds a way to get into a rhythm like nobody else here in Indianapolis, as he's holding on to that front position right now. But he is getting hunted down by Mikey Neal in that 8 car, sticking with him maybe a little bit better than Schaefer did at this point in the last run. But it is going to be hard to make up that ground without the clean air that Francisco has in front of him. That is going to be tough to make up, but if Neal can just conserve a little bit better than Francisco, that could open up the door for him to take this race lead away.
And the last time we saw Mikey Neal in competition for victory, it was back in the late stages of Season 7, most notably the Kansas Speedway race in which Neal led a ton of laps. He had been the fastest car over the long run, made a pivotal pass inside the final 25, and then it was one mistake at the exit of a corner on a restart inside 10 laps to go that took him out of contention. So the Ohio State Buckeye fan going to try to challenge up on Bacalhau and make it a proper fight for the race lead, something we have not seen tonight. I think the only challenge for the lead we saw was when Dahari gave the spot up under pacing laps before we took lap number 1 because he had that end-of-line penalty. But for right now, gap remains at about a second full. Neal's still one of the fastest cars inside this top group. So right behind in the middle of the top 15, haven't really talked about those other drivers that are in the mix of the group, but there are kind of conglomerates in the middle of this pack. You look at 15th place, that's Christopher Bishop, and his teammate Craig Lautenslager running right behind the pair of gold and Murray Media Motorsports Ford Mustangs. Of course, that's for Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, with the TJ's team sponsor on the front hood of mostly all of those cars. But running 3 in a line, that's Tyler Murray up in front 14th, and Alexander Schumacher. I mean, we cannot describe enough, Keelan, how much momentum is built for this Port Huron, Michigan native. Schumacher ended up with his best career 4-wide finish of P2 last week at the Nashville Superspeedway, and plenty of chances to which he could have gotten his first career 4-wide victory. He had been so competitive and so good throughout the last several months on iRacing, a KBueno Truck Series winner at Rockingham, should we say that, on the KBueno Racing Network, as there's trouble behind, and it is Christopher Bishop sideways at the exit of turn 4, and just as we looked at Bishop, he is planted up against the outside wall on the front straightaway.
He had been running really well, sat himself into the top 15. He was doing all right, and unfortunately, looks like he's in trouble here. That right front maybe ambered out a little bit, so some damage on that 42 as we'll look back to see what happened. This was just behind Alexander Schumacher in a 68. He was letting his teammate by, as well as Brandon Banks and Gabriel Zahari, so he was just trying to get back in line. Oh, just got loose under the wake of the 72 right there. That is something that is so easy to do, Kenneth, is to get knocked up into the wake of the car in front of you and really upset your car. Looked like Daniel Moore had some trouble there, and couldn't tell who that black and red car was right there that also got into the mix. CJ Munier, the 89, just looked like a pinball off the inside and outside wall there. So you see Bishop in trouble. He tries saving it, but ends up getting into somebody. Lance Hill also got damage out of that. Munier just trying to avoid it, just completely lost that race car out from underneath him. But yeah, that the initial incident with Bishop, that is something that is so easy to do, and it unfortunately causes a lot of damage to all these guys. Here's a look from Lance Hill into 1. He just cuts it to the bottom trying to avoid it and loses that race car. Avoided the pit road entry wall. That could have been a lot more damaging to his car. He may have just got a little bump on the nose, so some damage on the nose, but really unfortunate for all those guys involved, unfortunately. Just so easy to do, Kenneth. I don't know if you've had the chance to run a race here in these new next gens here in Indianapolis, but it is very easy to lose the car out from underneath you when you're tucked in behind somebody like that.
It is, and also when somebody's behind you, the aero packing situation that Francisco and a lot of other drivers have mentioned over the last few months after this next gen update, when everyone has had a bit more time to really understand what this car is all about, apart from maybe some hosted racing experience on the day that the build came out and the update for these cars originally released. But at that point, you're sitting in front of a car, they could just take the air off the spoiler, the car starts to wiggle sideways, and for Bishop, he was sideways for a whole half of the racetrack. Turn 3, he had been out of shape, ran up the wall. and then just too low on the entry of turn 4. And the car had caught the grass, and that transition is just more than enough to unsettle the car. And when you put too much mail in the mailbox, it's probably going to tip over when it's leaned over, like Bishop's car was, and all of a sudden ended up in some big-time trouble. So for CJ Mounier, he may be the first proper Escamilla, who's also made several trips down the pit lane. There's Kyle Benson getting his lap back. He is going to be just about 6 laps down on the racetrack when we come back to green flag action. And for Mounier, all of that tolling damage suffered from the hard hit to the outside wall most likely would take the Verona, New Jersey native out of this race. So a lot of drivers on pit road as well. So not entirely surprised that we would see pit stops like this, Keelan, and especially at this juncture of the race when maybe a long green flag run can come about and you can make a difference on strategy. But what do you see mindset-wise for all of these guys as they're coming in, especially some of those who were formerly inside the top 10?
Well, it's been really hard to pass when everybody's on equal tires. So a Moreno guy coming down and pitting, he's just going to try to switch something up here, get on fresh tires, maybe see if he can't make up some track position on fresh tires. But my worry would be I would probably get right back where I was, and then the tires would even out because I've been driving them so hard to get up there. But what it looks like on the ticker right now, sitting in the 12th position, this may work out well for him and maybe some other guys that came down pit road for service. But these fresh tires, they could be a benefit. I'm not sure how much of a difference they will make with just maybe about 8-9 laps of difference. But it is something to try. And also, if we get enough cautions, they may be able to... No, I was going to say they may be able to stretch this tank. My math was a little bit off by about 15 laps, Kenneth. But
it's going to be close, though. Closer than you'd imagine.
I mean, it'd be, 47 from here, and I think the number we heard was 28:30, so maybe with enough cautions. I mean, never say never. We saw Brandon Hawken win Richmond without taking a single pit stop one time, so never say never, but I think it is going to be just a situation of trying to bring enough people down with you to make this strategy viable, get fresh tires, see what you can do. I mean, it's going to be tough to beat a Francisco, a Mikey Neal, a Micah Walls right now on speed alone. So switch up the strategy a little bit. I like it.
And BBR will have 3 of the first 4 spots when we take the green flag next at lap number 34. So Bacalhau chooses the inside this time on the front row. Neal will choose the outside with basically being forced to be up there. Steven Maggio and Michael Walls will enter inside and outside of row number 2. AJ Green sits in 5th on the inside of row number 3. And Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, coming off of some pretty good races to start off season 8, his number 2 car will be on the outside in position number 6. And for Bacalhau, online to become the 3rd consecutive BBR driver to win this season. Moreno struck gold at Richmond Raceway several weeks ago, and then we of course had that Nashville race in which Porter was able to find the checkered flag. For Bacalhau, this will be his first win in a really long while for 4-wide competition. We haven't seen Bacalhau do it in a next-gen car, so it would be a very first big step for the Hialeah, Florida native, and probably won't beat the further allegations, Keelan, that he could run full-time if the success continues for him so far. But it just continues to elevate the level of success that BBR has been on. They've been on very much hot starts in their last several seasons. They've won 2 of the first 3 races this year, and then we also saw it happen last season when Steven Stepien won Daytona and Steven Maggio ended up winning in his first start at the virtual Auto Club Speedway. And a fun stat, it's taken at least an average of 1.6 races over the last few seasons for a BBR driver to win a race. So safe to say it doesn't really take long for them to put themselves on the top step of the podium, but for right now, still a long way to go and some strategy that could eventually make itself into the foreground if we get a long green stretch. So it's Bacalhau on the inside of the front row. Mikey Neal, the North Carolinian, on the outside trying to react as the pace car makes that dive to the inside and to the entry of pit road. Lap number 34 sees Barney the flagman deal the green once again from Speedway, Indiana. And once more, a lovely restart for Bacalhau and Michael Walls to first and second to turn 1.
We mentioned this in the Daytona show, Kenneth. Those are 2 guys who know each other very well from NASCAR 15 racing. I mean, almost a decade of experience racing each other. As Mikey Neal got really sideways there off the second corner. He kind of fishtailed it down a short chute. Steven Maggio taking advantage to his inside as everybody's side-by-side fanning out. You see Ethan Fonseca Moreno on those fresh tires a little bit deeper in the pack.
Look at the long straightaways. Maggio still can't quite complete the pass to the inside for 5th. AJ Green striking the bottom shelf on Jurgensmeyer. They'll wash up the exit of turn 3. They'll still be there. Car sideways and to the inside. Randall Payne going for a spill at the exit of turn 4. And will stay green for now as Payne goes to the access road on the inside.
That was a spectacular job keeping it off everybody right there, Kenneth. That could have very easily been a lot worse than it was, but he got it underneath him. As we see, Mikey Neal has pulled away from Stephen Maggio a little bit, but the battle is still on between Green, Jurgensmeyer, and now look who's inserting himself into a battle for a top 5 position. Adam Alishire in the 10 car and Alexander Schumacher in the 68.
Schumacher, Alishire, they'll go door to door down the back straightaway, and right behind is the car on the freshest tires of the field. Again, everyone from 1st through about 11th had stayed out on what's now 14-lap old tires. Now for Moreno, he's on the fresh track. He's trying to cut his way through the field. He'll point to the high side on Schumacher in the look for what's going to be 8th place. What a power move by Moreno to sling on by as Randy Showers and Tristan Bailey go at it for the final spot inside the top 10.
It looks like that may have been where that tire advantage kind of lended itself to Moreno right there, just being able to power around on the outside as Bailey battling Showers. Randy Showers, who has had a tough start to his rookie campaign, first 2 races ending up in incidents in both of them, but putting together a solid run right now, sitting now just outside the top 10. Kip Easley, Brandon Banks, and Gabriel Dehari 3 wide down the backstretch.
And just now is when that B-Movie Racing Chevrolet is putting himself into the front pack. Top 15 run for Dehari right now. The Texan trying to cut his way underneath Randy Showers. A big wash up in turn 3. And Dehari will be able to move on through as Banks and Murray go at it for position right behind it. We knew it was going to take a little bit for Dehari to catch up to the field. Maybe halfway wasn't going to be our exact prediction. Maybe we thought a couple more cautions would bring Dehari into this mix a little bit more, but finally the driver who had put in the fastest time in qualifying, and I believe will be the driver still awarded with the pole, and he will get points for it, will get the credit for winning the pole award, but of course will not get the reaping benefits of the situation in which he had to start on the front row, but then gave up all that spot, and then of course had that end-of-line penalty and had to make a move through pit road because of his actions at Nashville Superspeedway last Wednesday night. So good to see Dehari making his way up through the field. Still has a lot of competition, though, if he wants to make his way forward, because Tristan Bailey, Alex Schumacher, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, they are no slouches, and they are no surprising drivers to be not battling for positions up at the front, particularly in an aggressive fashion. There's AJ Green running P6 as everyone continues to try and chase down Bacalhau. No one has been able to find the remedy, Keelan, for what Bacalhau has been dealing with so far tonight. He's been able to gap everyone off of the restarts well, and now a full second once more between himself and Michael Walls.
I guess people should have watched his onboard lap in the pre-race show, Kenneth. I mean, the inputs he's doing are just better than everybody else right now as that 30 car continuing to gap himself away, and that clean air is a benefit, but being a smooth driver like he is being right now is much more of a benefit than just the clean air alone. He has led every lap to this point so far, and it's been a while since we've seen a race so dominated, Kenneth, where somebody could end up leading every single lap as we get to the halfway point of this race. Francisco has just been in cruise control, really.
He led 47 laps in his last start before this one, which of course was last week at Nashville. Didn't run at Richmond, ran the Speed Weeks at Daytona, to which he ended up winning the duel and putting himself on the front row alongside Curtis Kelly. So it's a sneaky good part-time run for Bacalhau. Not that we'd be surprised to see him at the front of the field. He is a very skillful driver, but again, he continues to tell us no full-time efforts from me this year, to which we say, if you're continuing to run good, I don't know if there's a reason why you shouldn't run full-time in this series, but alas, Bacalhau will try to reap the benefits of this race tonight, continues to lead all of the laps tonight from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the gap extends to nearly a second and a half back to Michael Walls. Mikey Neal running third, Maggio running fourth, and Jurgensmeyer the top 5.
Everybody's starting to spread out a little bit. As everybody really single file here, Kenneth. Yet to see a battle around this top 15, but about Jonathan Jurgensmeyer? Can't say enough about if we had to give out a most improved driver award from last season to this season, I think Jonathan Jurgensmeyer would probably be near the top of that recipient list. He has been very strong to open up this season, currently sitting in the 5th position, putting together a good run for himself in Indianapolis. He was up there in a position to possibly win last week at Nashville. He unfortunately went to pit road and a caution came out about a half lap later, and that really dashed his chances, but he ran really good, and I thought he was in the catbird seat to come out in victory lane last week, but this week putting together a good top 5 effort, and that is the exact runs that his camp at KBueno Racing and affiliates all want to see out of him, and they know he's capable of it. He's been running very well to open up season number 8.
Just trying to put in a championship-winning effort in his first full-time season. And like you said, just trying to carry off of the momentum from what was a really good Season 7 approach in those final few races. We always seem to have that happen between Jaden Porter, Season 4, Brandon Hawken in Season 6 before he made his first full-time effort, won the championship outright last season. And, you know, a lot of other rookie drivers that made part-time starts in one season and then went full-time the next season, to which they became a household name. And when we talked about Schumacher getting his best career 4-wide finish, I did say it was second, and I was wrong. He finished 3rd, to which Jurgensmeyer, this 2-car right now, finished in that P2 spot off of back-to-back podium efforts, back-to-back second-place finishes. Very excited after the Richmond podium, where he finished behind Moreno in those final few laps of overtime, and under Nashville overtime, made great use of the traffic in front, and the Beckmeyer, Illinois native, has now stepped into the top 5 as we once again settle into a rather lengthy green flag run. How about Dusty Applin, runner of the 16 car? We saw him be a rookie driver last season and several good runs. I remember that Las Vegas All-Star race, to which we saw this Can-Am Chevrolet put in some good races, but good to see Applin back in contention for Season 8 and running inside the top 18. Craig Lownslugger and Lawson Peel right in front as Peel continues his work back through the field after the big crash earlier on this evening.
That is attempting to be an incredible comeback drive for this 12 car, trying to put together the best effort he can. That is a small, puny amount of damage that was on that 12 car. Apparently, it looked like he was leaking engine fluid. He was smoking, but he looks like he has got everything repaired for the most part. Staying on the lead lap, teammate Eric Schaefer right out in front of him, trying to recover after his speeding penalty. So some dominance in the past for these DBR guys, but they are not having a race they want in particular, trying to make their way through the field.
Peel, of course, trying to get his first 4-wide win since Auto Club, the opener of the playoffs last season, put himself in the next round and made it all the way to the Championship 5. But the huge what-if story for not only himself, but banded together with Jaden Porter in that effort of, if they did not end up in a crash on a restart, how different would their chances at a championship have been, as he points his nose to the inside of Eric Schaefer, trying to get down low in turn 1, but just cannot bend the knees enough to be as low as he can go. Peel will stay right behind his teammate, loose off the exit of turn 1 to the short chute, and he'll stay back in line. And for Schaefer again, that penalty off pit road, a big time switch for the Hampton, Virginia native after running second for the entirety of the first run. Things had really done differently for Schaefer, now under fire from Peel down the inside of the back straightaway to turn 3.
We'll see what Peel can do here. Schaefer trying to keep that ground on the top side of the racetrack, and they're going to stay side by side down this short chute into 4. This is where we have seen many passes get completed, and just like that, Peel will get that position as the shade starts to cover this racetrack. May bring down the track temp a little bit, give these guys a little bit more grip. I don't know if that's necessarily what they want or what they don't want, but we start to see this gap shrinking up for second and third right here. Micah Walls, look out his rear bumper to Mikey Neal in that 8 car. They are all starting to bunch up as Francisco continues to pull away.
Almost a reset for the rookie driver here you're riding on board with right now, trying to fend off Mikey Neal for that second place spot to hold on to it. For this newly made GOAT Incorporated team getting their first ever win and their first ever start with Walls, and they have really been riding off the back of the 60 car, who I believe is on a full reset after, you know, the memories from Daytona could fill up a PS2 memory card because of how substantial they were. So many different moments in which Micah could have been 1 inch further off to the right, 1 inch further forward, and he may have been out of the race. But it really was a matter of putting himself in the right place at the right time. And just again, the story that I don't think anyone could go without telling for this season. 9th place in turn 4 on the white flag lap, and still ended up coming away with the W. So the rookie driver just putting in a fantastic points effort tonight as he holds off Mikey Neal. And for Steven Maggio, we had mentioned it earlier on, the shades of last season to which Maggio had been so consistent and so strong in Season 7, could not catch a break for the first 3 races this year. Tonight is that first proper chance for Maggio to strut his stuff and flex his muscle a little bit sitting inside the top 5.
And a good run could restore a lot of confidence for that 51 car right there in Steven Maggio. I know just sim racing in general for him over the last month or two has been kind of on a downward spiral. He has not had the luck that really a race car driver needs. You need as much luck as you do skill in order to put together good results. And right now, just trying to have both in his hands today. Sitting in 4th right now, he's done everything he can do. Put together a great run in that gold Eris machine. That paint scheme looks really good in gold, by the way, Kenneth. I didn't mention it last week at Nashville. I don't think I got the chance, but that car looks spectacular in gold. I think that could be a sick primary car.
Yeah, the spec map on it looks really good too. The chrome kind of lighting shade on this golden Eris Toyota Camry. This is a scheme, by the way, that was curated, of course, by Joe Gibbs Racing when they had Carl Edwards join the team. Daniel Suarez also raced his paint scheme in the NASCAR Xfinity Series when he won his first and only career Xfinity Series championship back in 2016. But the iRacing paint scheme curated by former eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Liam Brotherton. If you remember several years back when Brotherton was a part of the best 40 drivers in stock car racing on iRacing, Steven Maggio had lent his hand to Liam Brotherton, said, hey, can you make me this scheme? And he said yes, gave him the scheme, and that's the Eris Toyota that you see on the racetrack right now in a different shade. It's usually the typical Eris orange, but a golden look this time for September and for Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So he continues to run 4th, trying to chase down Mikey Neal as we should start to enter the plain Keelan of green flag pit stops. We didn't see that through the first run of the race because we had that first big crash that set us under yellow for the opening time, but for the rest of this race, we kind of calculated that there may not be a chance for these drivers to go all the way on this tank of fuel. They have to make at least 1 green flag stop, and that pit road window is starting to approach very soon.
Yeah, it should be opening in the coming laps. The numbers we got at the beginning of the race were 28 to 30 laps under a green flag tank, and I wonder how much different that is, whether you're in the draft and being able to save, or if you're Francisco Bacallao and you're just wide open, not really being able to save in the draft. So I wonder if that is a strategy anybody is doing deeper in this field, maybe saving a bit of fuel to make your pit stop shorter. I'm also curious if you pit early and maybe try to short pit. I'm not sure how much of an advantage tires have been. I mean, we saw Moreno take those tires on that last pit stop and kind of open things up for himself, but he wasn't really able to do much with it. So I'm starting to think that maybe tires are not that much of an advantage. So maybe short pitting is not necessarily the play. Maybe going as long as you can just to get just the fuel necessary in order to get to the end could be the play. There are a lot of different options here, but I think Francisco in that 30 car, he's got all the options in the world right now with how fast that race car has been and how much of a gap he has out back.
We were looking at Jaden Porter there. He's running all the way back in 29th place. So we don't know what happened fully with the Louisville, Kentucky native. He went 5 laps down at some point in this race, which is to where he sits right now. He pitted 11, now 12 laps ago on the speedway, so potentially lost laps while he was on pit road. He had spent a grand total of 18.4 seconds in the box, but again, we didn't really see him involved in any of the big crashes. So again, we'll try to answer that question for you as the Season 5 champion of this race finds himself in trouble right off the back of his first big win of the season at Nashville Superspeedway. Another good look at Tristan Bailey running inside the top 11, chasing down Brandon Banks and Alexander Schumacher. What great runs the trio of these drivers are being able to put on tonight, especially with Tristan Bailey. Mentioned 2 of the first 3 races have been starts inside the top 10. Hasn't been able to convert them to top 10 finishes or better, but tonight could be the big difference here for the 35 Rush Truck Center's Ford Mustang as we continue to push forward inside the final 30 laps from this virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And there is the race leader on in at lap number 51. Jonathan Juergensmeyer will join. Here are the first takers on the pit road this time.
This is, like we said, the window where it opens up for green flag stops to make it to the end of this race. So Francisco hitting pit road. He just needs to be calm, cool, collected, don't speed. You had that lead over Michael Walls. But for the first time, we have a new race leader, Kenneth, in Michael Walls in the 61st laps, not led by Francisco Bacallao.
And those will be the first laps that Michael Walls will lead in a four-wide race since, I believe, that Daytona event where he led that final lap and ended up with the win. But Steven Maggio not too far behind, just about a half second between those two cars. Mikey Neal and Ethan Fonseca Moreno are also not too far behind on the road. Here comes the entry to pit road. And again, it's not the hardest entry to the lane that you'd expect to see here at this track. Of course, the mile and a half seem to be much more difficult, but you got to come up, Keelan, from about 175 miles an hour to what is the pit road speed limit. You got to be stamping on the brakes, and we've seen drivers try to maximize the amount of time that they are at high speed before they have to hop on the brakes and get to pit road speed limit without a penalty. So we'll keep in mind as to whether any black flags get thrown. But for now, a good bunch of the front group comes in. That's AJ Green, Maggio, Michael Walls, and another that had joined them in Alexander Schumacher.
We'll see where everybody else does decide to make their pit stops. I believe Adam Alishire was the first taker. He was just outside the top 10, so he didn't quite catch that. But here's the 30 of Francisco Bacallao. He's hitting the front stretch right now. And watch where the 60 of Michael Walls is. This blend right here, there goes Francisco. And that could be the race for net P1 if we do not get another caution. That is the race that we were watching right there. Maybe tires are a little bit more important than I thought, Kenneth. I mean, that he pit before Michael Walls by one lap, and he came in with about a 2.5 second lead, and he may extend that lead by a second and a half or so through this cycle. Mikey O'Neill, Ethan Fonseca Moreno hitting pit road. And remember, Ethan, he came in a little bit later, so he may be able to shorten his pit stop a little bit. He may not need as much fuel if he decides to take two there, but he is going to, he's going for two, and that shortened his pit stop because he made that pit stop under caution around lap 30. We'll see where he blends with that 30 car. This could be a viable strategy. He's going to come out behind Francisco, but that he did get the opportunity to shorten his pit stop there, Kenneth, because he came in around that lap 30 caution and got to take two tires, shorten his pit stop. Not going to get him the lead, but maybe get him a little bit of track position as Gabriel Zahari has finally found his way into the race lead after serving those penalties early. That really kind of put a damper on his run, but if he can get a good finish, it all reads the same in a box score at the end of this thing.
And at a track like Indianapolis, what you really want to do is that strategy for Moreno. Limit the amount of time you are in and out of pit road. You want to make it as seamless as possible. He's the only driver, by the way, to take two fresh Goodyear Eagles in this run. Everyone else so far that we've seen take pit road, they have gotten 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. So it's Gabriel Zahari leading this field, still left to come down pit road on his 24th lap of the stint, crossing the yard of bricks. Brandon Banks comes up to a race-high second. Lawson Peel continuing to attempt a comeback after nearly getting taken out of this race earlier on for the first yellow of the night. Craig Launslager, the Euless, Texas driver, has put himself inside the top 5. And Tyler Murray, the league owner, got to give a shout-out to the Golden TJ's team Ford Mustang as he's put himself into this top group with a chance to maybe cycle out in enough time. Bacallao did not fall a lap. He cycles out in 16th place. And for Moreno, he's got net P2, just about 3.5 seconds behind this Pink Lemonade Celsius comboed Toyota Camry. So a lot of distance between those two. And from history that has told us throughout the first 56 laps of this race, clean air is king, track position is king as well. So as soon as everyone cycles out, for what may be the final pit stop tonight, is there comes the duo of Zahari and Banks. They'll be in at lap number 56. It will be all about how this blend comes forth. Lawson Peel will take over the race lead as Zahari hits pit road.
And we'll give it over to Lawson Peel on the 12 car. What an eventful day for, oh no, in the fence right there. lost it a little bit. Looks like he's going to gather it back up through turn number 2. But what an eventful day for that 12. He started just outside the top 10. That's about where he was as this race really got going. He unfortunately got involved in that wreck about a quarter of the way through this show. Trying to make that recovery drive, Kenneth, it's so hard to do, especially in these next gens with how track position dependent these racetracks are. He's staying out here trying to maintain that race lead in that 12 right now before he does decide to come down for pit road service.
And there's Tristan Bailey. This is a replay. He had been on pit road for the last 3.5 minutes, and he's still on pit road, but he's not in this session. So another big blow to a driver who has been doing well so far tonight. Tristan Bailey, at the moment, out of Indianapolis. What a huge blow.
And he had been putting together a great effort, kind of being the staple for Murray Reedy Motorsports so far today in the top 10 all day long. But it looks like his day coming to an end with less than 30 laps to go. We see Tyler Murray in a 36 trying to run this tank dry. He has turned over in the race lead, leading some laps after Lawson Peel made the dash to pit road. And now Francisco Bacallao in a 30. He's just waiting on about 6 more guys to hit pit road before the lead turns back over to him. So barring a caution flag, he is in the perfect position as it stands right now in that Celsius pink lemonade car.
Just trying to hang on and hopefully no yellows get in his way. He's up by just about 3 seconds to his next competitor, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and that gap remains as is. Bacallao still setting the slower laps between the two, but not mattering in this grand scale of things as we continue to move forward. So Craig Parks now the race leader with just about 20 laps to go. And that currently leaves maybe 4 to 5 cars that are still out on the racetrack without a trip to pit road yet. Here comes the league owner Tyler Murray in, so he pits from the race lead as his teammate Kyle Benson sits right in front. Well, it's been a tough race for the Williamsport, Pennsylvania native, fresh off of the suspension at Nashville Superspeedway. 7 laps down, trying to crack in a top 30 through this final stretch tonight. And it's the rest of the group that are just praying that a yellow flies, and it did happen last week, Keelan. We saw when Stephen Maggio and company, they were cycling out. Lots of frustrations after Timothy Cook went for a spill at the exit of turn 4 in a solo accident that brought out the yellow flag. We could very well see the same thing change the way this race is taken mentally by the rest of this field, especially Bacallao and the group, but they would love this race to stay green, especially the race leader who now is giving up lead laps for the first time tonight after leading the first 37 plus of tonight's event.
And it's a lot easier to be more confident in your strategy if you're Craig Parks right now when you're staying out and everybody is a lap down and you can trap everybody in that situation. But at a track as long as Indianapolis, I think that's why it lends itself to being such a good place to short pit, because you can't really go a lap down if you're up front and you short pit, and if that caution comes out, I mean, you're on the lead lap, so you're in a perfect position. But Francisco sitting 16 seconds behind those race leaders right now. Coming off the 4th corner, coming to 20 to go. He is in prime position to hang on to this thing as long as a caution does not come out. Ethan Fonseca Moreno in the 92 going to try to run him down. He is now second to Francisco for the first time as Francisco takes the race lead back over with 20 laps to go. Craig Parks coming in for service. Chris Fowler as well in the 11. And that's going to turn the lead back over to Francisco and his BBR teammate sitting behind him in second.
So as we continue to run green with 20 laps to go from the racing capital of the world, let's go through the field on the KBueno Racing Network, and we'll start with the most dominant driver of the day who's led over half of this race. Francisco Bacallao back in control, looking for his first win in 4 wide since December of 2021 when he led 189 laps to win at Nashville Superspeedway. He's taken many different part-time routes throughout the last season and a half, and in many of those hasn't been successful. But when he captured a top 10 at Nashville Superspeedway, told us how happy he was to finish well, especially at a track that he dearly loves, said he was ready to go and he was feeling dangerous for Indianapolis Motor Speedway tonight, and dangerous he is, putting the dagger on this field and hoping that he can keep this gap up but Ethan Fonseca Moreno chasing him down. For the moment, Bacalhau in control.
Yeah, the gap is down to 1 second as Ethan Fonseca Moreno trying to run his teammate down. Maybe Francisco burning his stuff up a little early as the 92 continues to try to run him down. The points leader right now is Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's trying to get his second win of the season after a hot start, and he's trying to start the climb to be the first multi-time champion. If he can get that done this season, and if he can just get the race won tonight, there will be no happier man than that 92.
Right behind him sits the Daytona winner and rookie for GOAT Incorporated in Michael Walls. And when you told us that Michael Walls would be the eventual winner of that Daytona race after being 9th out of turn 4, we would have laughed in your face, but it ended up being true. Michael Walls ended up winning. He's got a playoff spot, and in both of his previous starts, Daytona and Richmond included, didn't run Nashville. He's got top 10, something that can be said by very few drivers in Season 8 of 4 Wide, given how widespread it has been. So for Walls, a very sneakily fast night. He ran second, as high as it earlier on in tonight's race behind Bacalhau, but potential chance for Michael Walls to strike gold and be that surprise driver once again for his second career dub.
Well, Season 7 Championship 5 driver Steven Maggio has not had the luck on his side in the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series so far in Season number 8. First 3 races have not treated him kindly, but if he can get a top 5 tonight at Indianapolis, that momentum could be right back in his corner as he tries to go for a second straight Championship 5 appearance. He's being hounded down by teammate Gabriel Tahari right now, but Maggio has had a quiet day in the top 5 in that gold Aris Camry. He's going to try to hold on to it as we close in on the closing laps of this one. A 4th place finish would do wonders for Steven Maggio in that 51 camp. Steven Maggio runs 4th.
And then Gabriel Tahari right behind in 5th. A man that has had his version of the long walk tonight from Indianapolis. Started on the front row with the best qualifying time of the field, but because he had a penalty awaiting him from last week's events at Nashville Superspeedway, had an end-of-line penalty and had to drive through pit road on the opening lap of the race. Safe to say it hasn't been the easiest night from the Houston Texan, but not something that he hasn't been able to overcome. After being basically dead last for the first portion of this race, he has slowly but surely climbed his way up, and it could be a potential win, maybe even a podium, as the yellow flag will fly and the top 5 will slow down trouble all the way at the back, and I believe Curtis Kelly might have been the man involved.
It's been a rough day for Curtis Kelly in that 71. If this was indeed him, he has not really found the speed at all today in that Krispy Kreme Camry. Haven't really talked about him much here into turn number 3. This looks like he gets too hard into the corner, washes up, smacks against the fence, and lost control of that race car and ends up sliding up into the wall in turn number 4. It looked like he tried to disconnect before he caused a yellow, but the caution flag does indeed fly. Now with 16 to go, the question of do you want tires in this situation is a perfectly valid question, Kenneth. And those guys who maybe stayed out a little bit later into that run, like a Tyler Murray, they could be looking like geniuses. As there you see Francisco scratching his head. Not quite sure what to do here. He is in that position that Jaden Porter kind of was in last week, Kenneth, where, you know, whatever you do, somebody's going to do the opposite. I think the best course of action with how dominant Clean Air has been today, Kenneth, is for that 30 car to stay out and try to defend. He was kind of getting run down by Moreno and Walls a little bit there. But I think your only option, if you're Francisco, is to stay out and trust your aero blocking abilities to stay out front, kind of like Jaden Porter did last week.
And you'd imagine that if Bacalhau is going to stay out, who else is going to take that opportunity and also remain on the racetrack? Because remember, we saw that late race restart with Jaden Porter at the front of this field, but when everyone had pitted behind him, nobody else had elected to stay out. Even those beneath the top 20, they all wanted to come in for 4 fresh tires or 2 tires and come out of pit road with a new splash and a new set of rubber. Porter was the solo car on the racetrack. Now, you remember earlier on in that race when Eric Schaefer, AJ Green, and Tyler Murray had stayed out, what did that do for them? It helped them be at the front, lead a couple of laps, and AJ Green was able to lead a good chunk of the event until fresh tire power would ultimately overcome him and near the later portion of that run. So it's right in agreement with what you're saying, Keelan Belsha, as they come off of turn 4. Track position is everything. Who bites the bullet? When they come down to the front straightaway, Moreno is faking, so is Michael Walls. Gabriel Dehari will take the chance. He'll come in. Adam Alishire, Tristan Bailey, or that's Craig Lautenslager rather, and a good chunk of the back half will come in on pit road.
Dehari really the first big hitter right there. He was running in the 5th position when that yellow came out. He's coming down for service there in that 72, but he's gonna be deeper than I would like in this situation. I just don't think enough people bit the bullet to pit road with him. Looks like 14th as he comes off pit road here, so that's all right, but it's going to be hard to even make it up to 5th on those fresh tires where he was running, and only 2 of them for that matter. So 72 going to have his work cut out for him. Just didn't have enough people bite with him, in my opinion, as looked like top 13 as it stands right now stays out on the racetrack, and that's good for Francisco. He has a good buffer back to that first car on fresh tires, and it's going to be very hard for that first car on fresh tires to get all the way up to where he is. So I think this worked out pretty well for the 30 car. I was surprised we didn't see much aggression out of guys like maybe a Michael Walls, Steven Maggio, Alexander Schumacher back there in 10th. Surprised we didn't see that aggression. We only really saw it out of Gabriel Dehari, and the only people he pulled down were people that were, running 15th on back.
I think it's because you wanted the track position. I think they all wanted the track position. They did not want to make that gamble like Dehari did. It was going to be beneath the top 15, at least, to maybe in that range. And honestly, a bit surprised that we saw Dehari come down pit road, because he had the freshest tires out of anyone in the main group when they had done that cycle out. Last time I checked, he had 9-lap old tires, to which Moreno had just about 13-lap old tires. Same deal for Michael Walls. Steven Maggio was around that range. Francisco had the oldest at about 15 laps total. But Dehari had the freshest life out of everyone else, so it's a bit of an odd call considering that he still has a lot more tire left in him to use in comparison to everyone else, especially in the situation that Dehari was in. He was beneath the top 5, had a chance to watch those guys ahead make their decision, and then base his decision off of that. Looks like he wants to bite the bullet, take black instead of red, and try to hope that the bet pays off tenfold. 1 to green from the iRacing official pace car, and with 13 laps to go, we'll try to have a dash to the start-finish line. Bacalhau in control, to which he's been in that position for almost the entire race, trying to win his first race in a little under 4 years, as Moreno tries to win his 2nd race of the season after taking the dub at Richmond. So does Michael Walls, but I'm sure that 4th and 5th place, Steven Maggio and Mikey Neal would love nothing more than to capture a victory. For Maggio, a return to positivity. For Mikey Neal, a chance at his first ever dub in 4-wide competition. Keelan, do you think this blows the race wide open? I think it does. I think we may have more cautions before this is all said and done.
It's very well possible because of how aggressive these restarts are and how ill handling these cars are in a situation like this. A late race restart. I think cautions breed cautions, just like the old saying goes. I think that could be a very well possibility as it stands right now. There's going to be guys a little bit deeper in the pack that are going to be wanting to make up that track position, and they'll probably run over you if you're in front of them to do it. So just a refresher on the keys, that track position, it was the first key we mentioned during the pace laps, and a lot of those top 13, they decided to listen to my keys and take that track position. So we will see how that works out for everybody, Kenneth. But I think Francisco's in a good position if he can get a good restart. But if Moreno is on him going into turn number 1, we got a race.
Well, let's see. Bacalhau will have control in the restart zone, with Moreno on the outside to react, but teammate help in Steven Maggio. Michael Walls trying to spoil the party in his Capri Sun Ford Mustang behind. Bacalhau trying to continue domination like Delaware did to FIU last weekend on the football field. Bacalhau in front. He'll have a chance to lead him. Green flag with 12 laps to go. This time from the yard of bricks. Bacalhau gets out early. Michael Walls gives him the push. Green flag.
Michael Walls, he's going to pull out a line here to the inside of Bacalhau. That was a perfect reaction by Michael Walls into 60, and now he's going to have the preferred line through turn number 1. He's got to stick with him. Caution out immediately. Craig Parks in trouble for the 17 in turn number 1, as Michael Walls had a spectacular restart there. Oh, Kenneth, he was going to have something for him there if that caution does not come out. Craig Parks was the last guy to stay out. Gabriel Dehari, the first car on fresh tires. I said it right before the restart. Those guys on fresh tires are going to be aggressive to make up track position. Craig Parks just did not give Dehari much room right there. He was not going to give an inch trying to defend his track position. And Dehari just gets into his quarter panel right there and sends him around.
And so tough for Dehari. Again, that call to come down pit road meant you were going to be beneath the ball in track position. Dehari tried to put his nose down there. Parks was silently trying to deny him. And then Dusty Applin nowhere for the Can-Am Chevrolet to go. Bit of damage on the front end of his Chevrolet Camaro. Such a hard hit for Craig Parks, and another heartbreaking effort for the 17 car, a driver who really hasn't been able to find that success as of late. We saw him bring out a yellow or two at Nashville Super Speedway last Wednesday, and so hoping that the 17 car could get back in this deal. But for now, another long wait and a potential shot denied there, Keelan, by Micah Walls. You pointed it out right on the restart, pointed his nose to the inside, had a shot at the lead. And now he's going to have to hope that he gets a good enough restart to do that all over again to turn one.
Yeah, I almost wonder if Francisco maybe sent the private message when he was going about when he was going. But that opened up the door for Micah because he was right on him, and he got to his inside, and he stuck with him through turn number one, but the caution came out before we got to see if Walls could get around him in that second corner. And now, unfortunately for Walls, he's going to be on the outside looking in. It's going to be so much tougher to stick on the outside when Francisco gets the jump. We see reactions out of the third place car a lot better than the second car most of the time. So turn that advantage over to the 8 of Mikey Neal, possibly. A guy looking for his first career win still. He was really close at Kansas in the middle of last season. And he mentions that race often when we go to a media day with Mikey Neal. He, thinks about things he would have done different there at Kansas. He's got that opportunity maybe now here in Indianapolis.
Let's get a word with the driver that's in control of the field right now. We are joined once again by Francisco Bacalhau. Francisco, you've dominated this race. Any nerves now that the cautions are flying inside 10 to go?
I'll tell you what. Whoever's in my position and tells you they're not nervous, they're absolutely lying to you, Kenneth, because it's impossible not to feel nerves when you're in a position to win.
You've had the track position. It seems like that has mattered the most. All the clean air has given you a chance to really stretch your legs, especially when the runs have gone green enough. Now in this moment where you have to adjust to green flag restarts more often than not, how do you structure that difference, and in what way do you maintain level-headedness at the front?
Execution, I think, is going to be the biggest factor in resulting in a good, successful restart, getting out enough in front to where they can't really catch you. Hopefully, ideally, they would be racing for second behind me, and I can scoot away with it. Honestly, I don't mind the cautions continuing to come out so long as I can get the restarts down. Just trying to hopefully be able to bring it across the line, ideally on lap 80.
Well, let's see if that prophecy ends up ringing true. Francisco, good-looking race car, a good spot inside the final 10. Best of luck.
Appreciate it. By the way, if you had a scare during the broadcast, if you saw me going down the track, I would just like to preface this by saying that was a screen freeze, the ones that I've talked to you about. That happened to me in NIS here in July on the front stretch. I was honestly, my heart sank. I was like, there's no way that, of course, it comes down to this. But honestly, I recovered somewhere along the pit lane exit, and I slid up the track, and I still had the lead. And honestly, I have no idea how it was so short. That's the shortest screen freeze I've ever had.
Well, let's cross our fingers that literally does not happen ever again in the rest of this race. The screen freezes can be saved for after the checkered flag, not before. So, Francisco, best of luck on the restart. Hope it all goes well.
Appreciate it, you guys.
That's Francisco, who is looking for his first win since 2021. Let's join the driver who's running outside of row number 1 now, and that's rookie Micah Walls. Micah, having a chance to win race number 2 of your opening 4-wide season. What are you going to try to do now to execute this restart in the best way possible?
Yeah, I'm going to... Honestly, I know his little games, what he's about to do here. So don't be surprised if I get a really good start here. Get to his outside, and we're going to be as aggressive as possible and try to win this thing.
We'd mentioned dirty air, how big of an impact that has played in a race like this. How do you break that bubble as a driver who's sitting in the wake of a driver in front?
Yeah, it all comes down to the restart. You want to clean air as soon as possible, so.
Well, Michael, we really appreciate the time. Best of luck on the restart. We'll see how it goes.
I appreciate it.
That is Michael Walls, who will sit on the outside of row number 1. KBueno Racing has locked down all 6 of the first 10 cars on the racetrack right now. Bakayao leading, Michael Walls on the outside. Actually, 5 of the 6, rather, should I say. Mikey Neal in 3rd. Moreno back in 4th on the outside of row 2. Steven Maggio running in 5th. A sneaky opportunity for the driver who's won multiple races last season. Lawson Peel in 7th, with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer up the road in P6. Brandon Banks, Alex Schumacher, and AJ Green bring in the rest of the top 10 as we'll get a crucial restart inside 8 to go. Bakayao says execution. Michael Walls says he's got the game plan figured out for the driver that is on his left side. And when the pace car makes its left to the inside of pit road, it could be the final chance that we see the pace car come out. And as we'll see the race maybe develop green, could be a brand new winner to bring us 4 different winners over the first 4 races. Can Bakayao continue the dominance? Can he seal the deal? Or can Michael Walls put his nose out in front and make it a surprise effort through the restart zone? Another great restart for Bakayao. Michael Walls is hanging tough to turn 1.
He was confident in that interview a second ago, Kenneth. That confidence proving true. He's sticking to the outside of Bakayao. Can he maybe cross him back over into 2? He's sticking to his outside, but Bakayao is going to clear him here off of the second corner. Francisco gets clear. Micah's going to have to try to get there in turn number 3, but it's going to be really tough now that the 30 has that clean air.
Trying to break the draft down the back straightaway. Fight for 3rd and 4th continuing. Car sideways down the grass. Michael Newbraw going into the inside wall. Do we stay green? I believe we will.
There is a bit of damage on that 6 car. He's going to have to try to nurse that thing to pit road. But the 30 of Bakayao is going to take 7 to go here. And I think he would be okay with this thing going green now that he's got that clean air. But look who's in this race now, Kenneth. Lawson Peel in the 12 car has an opportunity to get a top 5 out of this after all that damage he sustained earlier.
You cannot silence the Jaws music when it starts to hit the sound waves. Lawson Peel down the bottom. He'll look for 5th. On Moreno, a slide up outside turn 2, and he's got it. The season 4 champ trying to make his way back into this group as Mikey Neal trails down behind Michael Walls, and the gap remains at 7 car lengths back to turn 3 to the race leader.
Francisco getting that clean air. That is exactly what he wanted as he starts to scoot away, just try to get back in that rhythm that he was in for the first 70 laps of this thing. Doing a pretty good job so far, as that is a big gap back to Michael Walls. And Michael Walls now has to kind of look in his rearview mirror and defend from the 8 of Mikey Neal and the 51 of Steven Maggio, who has put himself back into the 4th position.
He'll try to rally up and get a top 3 at the end of this race. We'll catch 5 laps to go next time by from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And just like the majority of this race beforehand, it is all in control of the Hialeah, Florida native of Bakayao. Behind them, potential battle for 7th. Banks now under fire. Moreno looking up ahead. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer and Schumacher could be there for the taking in turn 3. Jurgensmeyer backs out, and a silent but effortless move through the field for Brandon Banks. Potential top 10 on the marks as he tries to chase down the Prime Video car.
We talk about that DBR car on the pre-race show and how fast those DBR cars have been. Lawson Peel and Brandon Banks just working with each other through this show, and now have found themselves in 5th and in 7th as Banks tries to hunt down Moreno for that 6th position right there. If Moreno slips up once, that Paul's setups car can take it away from him. As Lawson Peel trying to hunt down the 51 of Steven Maggio right there. He's not done gaining positions, Kenneth. That 12, ever since he got it repaired, he is back in this thing.
And for as many battles as we can see inside this top 5, ultimately the goal for Bakayao is to have that happen. As long as they remain side by side for position, the longer that Bakayao can continue to step out in front. Peel chasing down Maggio to the tune of about a car length or 2. They remain nose to tail right behind the 8 car of Mikey Neal. And Michael Walls still with no proper response past the restart. 4 laps to go this time.
It's just smooth sailing right now for the 30. Just got to stay in that rhythm that you have been in. We've mentioned that rhythm several times today. It's just because This is like an endurance racer, Kenneth. This is like me and you that time we did like 16 hours straight together in the Daytona 24. It was just hopping in the car, running laps, knowing your marks and hitting them. That is what Francisco does so well here at Homestead or Indianapolis. I was going to say, he always says Homestead is one of his better tracks. I think Indianapolis is his best because every time I have seen him race here, he just gets in such a rhythm that nobody else can get in, just hitting his marks every single lap. He's doing very well right now as he comes to take 3 laps to go.
He's a driver that obviously likes to be good everywhere, but his part-time schedule has been picked meticulously. All the tracks that he's running in Season 8 part-time are tracks that he is specialized in. COTA, obviously Indianapolis have been a part of that group for a little while now. Nashville Superspeedway has been in there. The site of his last career 4-wide win back in 2021 with the Gen 6 cars in season number 3. It has been a long time since we've seen Bacalhau win a race on the KBueno Racing Network, and a long time since we've seen him dominate a race like this in hefty 4-wide competition. 2.5 laps to go from the racing capital of the world. Michael Walls is still 0.8 of a second back. Mikey Neal, Maggio, Lawson Peel the top 5.
Well, for Francisco, as he comes to take 2 to go, I think back to that Nashville win, Kenneth, where he led over 180 laps, 189 to be precise, en route to that victory. Since then, only 2 top 5s in his last 10 starts. So a win here to restore some confidence would be awesome for him as he maneuvers around the lap car.
Oh no,
Michael Walls gets wrecked.
Michael Walls will get turned around from second, and the caution flag will fly. And it will be at least one more restart for Bacalhau to master.
Oh no. Such a good run for Michael Walls, and just none of his doing right there. Just getting into the lap car there, spinning him around. Francisco got around him. That's Michael Newbraw in a 6 car that bounced off the wall into Walls. Francisco got around him, and then when Michael Walls, it was his turn to negotiate around him. That is the worst spot to catch a lap car, Kenneth. Coming off turn number 1 onto the short chute where that safer barrier ends. You either have to lift a lot just to make sure you avoid him, or run the risk of him bouncing off the wall. And when it's 2 laps to go and you're trying to run down the leader, you're not trying to lift very much, and you hope that lap car gives you a little bit. Newbraw, he tried his best to give as much as he could. You see him get all the way up on the fence, but Walls was running him out of room, and Newbraw just unfortunately bouncing off the fence, and that is really unfortunate for Michael Walls. He had put together such a good run today, and now it's going to be all for naught, and we are going to get an overtime restart.
Michael Walls is looking for his 3rd consecutive top 10 run after missing Richmond, and it's going to be a damaged Ford Mustang, and a potential chance of the win just squandered there in those final few laps. And just like you said, Keelan, that's such an awkward place to visit any kind of lap traffic when a car is coming up on the outside, the safer barrier ends to give way for that normal concrete wall, and there's still a bit of a jut out there, so if you hit it awkwardly like Newbraw did, you can come back down the speedway. Michael Walls is trying to carry as much speed off of the short chute as possible to be able to make up all that lost time to Bacalhau. And now we'll be decided into a 2-lap-to-go restart under our first attempt at 4-wide overtime. It will be, I believe, the 4th straight race in which we have tried to run this thing all the way until the end. And with a late race yellow coming out in all 4 of our events in Season 8, the last 3 have come down to overtime, including this one tonight. But we'll just see how many attempts it will take. At Nashville Superspeedway, it was all about just a good restart for Jaden Porter. And even though he was on the old tires, he was able to sustain. At Richmond, it was the same for Moreno, who had been the fastest car on the racetrack. But again, one restart could change everything. You falter once, and your chance could be gone, Keelan. The pressure has to be insurmountably high for Bacalhau at this moment in time.
It's got to be. You've been in such a rhythm all day, and now this is all going to come down to a green-white checkered where you're hoping you can get into the lead and make it back to the white flag. The stress just amplifies itself, and we saw when that caution came out, his camera came up, he was shaking his head. He knew he had it in the bag if that did not happen. And now he's going to have to put himself back in a position like this, but You know, for other drivers, this is a welcome opportunity. I mean, Steven Maggio, he is going to be in line with Francisco, and if he can get a restart like Micah Walls did on that, you know, second to last restart, the door could be wide open for Steven Maggio, or maybe even Lawson Peel in that 12. He's still looking for a third straight Indianapolis Motor Speedway victory, and he was involved in a wreck a quarter of the way through this race. He is now in fourth. So this race has been blown wide open, but for Francisco, the task remains the same, and that is to get out front off of turn number 1.
And now the question is, what line does he choose? He had been really defensive on the inside to Michael Walls, especially in the short chute coming into turn 2, trying to kind of negate that aero packing situation that happens when a car right behind gets across to your rear spoiler, takes the air off, and the car immediately in front steps out away from him. We haven't seen that happen to Bacalhau or really anyone inside this top group in this moment, but all the defensive lines have come from the inside, so maybe no surprise if this 30 car ends up going for the bottom once again. He will have teammates in either line that he chooses, I believe. No, he'll have one choice of a teammate, one choice of Lawson Peel, two very experienced drivers. Steven Maggio will be in third, so he'll choose the inside lane should Bacalhau be there on the restart, and then for Lawson Peel, he'll be that man on the outside in fourth place. So coming to the 1 to green, we'll enter our first attempt at 4-wide overtime from Speedway, Indiana. And Bacalhau, it appears, will choose the top shelf, as Mikey Neal and Steven Maggio will take serve down the inside lane. And here's how we'll do it. We'll settle this field out with 2 laps to go. We'll try to get to the checkered flag under green flag circumstances. If a yellow comes out before the white flag is displayed, we'll double them up and do it all over again. We have 3 attempts to finish this race under that green-white checkered format. If we are on that final attempt at a GWC and the yellow flag comes out before the white is displayed on the speedway, then we will end the race right then and there off the yellow, and whoever is the leader when that yellow flag comes out, they will be the victor. Now, if we are able to get to the white flag and a yellow flag does not fly in that period of time, we're just going to race it to the finish. Simple as that. Bacalhau is going to have to hope and pray that this will be the only overtime restart that we'll have, but knowing how desperate everyone in the field may be for position at the end of this, could very well be a shot that we extend this race further than what is now an 84 lap distance out on track. And Killen, this is going to be wild. 3 teammates inside this top 5, all of them looking for a pivotal first win this season.
And I'm really intrigued by the choice of the top right here by Francisco. I know the thought process behind it is to hopefully you're clear by turn 1, and if not, you're setting yourself up for the backstretch to be able to pull clear. But you're putting a lot of trust on that guy on your inside that he is not being super aggressive going into turn number 1, and he won't knock you up the racetrack and open the door for Steven Maggio. I think if it was me, I'd be on the bottom just because I don't trust the car on my inside to not be the most aggressive he can be. But Francisco, he's going to try to set himself up here. If he can get the jump, it really doesn't matter.
Bacalhau on the outside of the front row. Mikey Neal to react, looking for his first career 4-wide W. They'll take their way through the restart zone. Bacalhau launches out early. Neal will not have a chance to respond. Green flag in overtime, and 2 laps to go.
That is exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to get clear going into turn number 1 to kind of get these guys side by side behind him as everybody's stacking up. And there goes Moreno. Schaefer in it, Applin in it, Chris Fowler in it, Adam Alishire. A lot of damage here, and we're going to have a second attempt here as they all stack up in the short chute between turns 1 and 2. We're going to re-rack them and try it again.
And a heartbreaker for Moreno, who tried the last-ditch effort move in turn 1. Here's the aerial shot, stack up on the restart behind Mikey Neal. And you'll see this 92 car peek out of line. He's going to look for the inside spot. Maggio deals the block, gives the shove. And at that point, Moreno had hit the transition between the grass and the apron. And then a tap from Adam Alishire sends him high up into the wall, gets Eric Schaefer. And that will do it for Moreno's chances at trying to capture a win tonight from Indianapolis. Let's try to take a second look at it off of the restart, where Moreno had really given a shot at it. And unfortunately, things really just did not work out in that sense. Here's the onboard look from the restart.
And remember, they cannot move before the start-finish line is crossed. So there you see start-finish line crossed. Moreno tries to pick his nose down in there, but Maggio, he wants to do the same to Mikey Neal. And Moreno just gets blocked, and going into turn number 1 right there, his left front tire is on the transition of the, you know, kind of where the banking starts, and that just really upsets the car from underneath. Puts him around. He probably would have been okay if Adam Aleshire didn't get into him right there, but Aleshire getting into him sends the 92 around back up into traffic, and now we're going to have another attempt here, Kenneth. And Mikey Neal, he just got a rep with Francisco, and he's going to kind of know where he's gassing up and what his plan is, but I wonder if fuel constraints could be a concern here as we get late into these overtime restarts. You see the number 30's got that clutch pushed in, just barely giving it a bit of gas. Remember, he pitted right about when the window opened with 29 to go, and we've had some caution laps to help him out. But Kenneth, I know you got the number there. How many laps has it been since that last pit stop, including, you know, caution laps and all that?
For Bacalhau, it's been 33 laps. Remember, that's right after the window ends that Tyler Murray had given us. 28 to 32 laps was that pit window to go on a tank of fuel before you would eventually try to run out, and then you would have to come in. For Bacalhau on 33. For Mikey Neal, he's on 31, so maybe a bit more time. For Maggio, 32. And then the best case scenario drivers sit right behind him. Lawson Peel on 27, 28 for Brandon Banks, and then the lowest out of the drivers inside the top 6 or so, Gabriel Dahari, who's got 18 laps on his tank of fuel. So not only is it the case of stress for overtime restart execution in mind, it's about how much fuel do you have left, and can you make it all the way to the end of a third and final overtime attempt, plus the rest of the way you have to carry behind the pace car to win the race if you are the leader. We have seen before drivers run out of fuel in any of those crucial mark points, whether it be on the white flag lap, whether it be even after the yellow flag is displayed for the final attempt and you're just carrying yourself to the checkered. If you lose fuel pressure and you drop position, iRacing will punish you and you will not be considered the winner of the race. Keelan, we saw it happen in real life. I think at Sonoma Raceway back in, 2010? Was it Marcos Ambrose that ran out of fuel? Jimmy Johnson ended up winning that race because the 47 car had ran out of fuel pressure under yellow. Could very well see that happen here tonight. And you're looking at the front 3, pretty much all of them trying to save as much fuel as they can.
I think back to the famous one at Chicagoland, that playoff race where Greg Biffle in his car, he ran out of fuel and he dropped positions, and NASCAR said he was the winner. I don't think he should have been the winner in that case, but I believe he was given the win for that one after he ran out behind the pace car. But I mean, all these caution laps are helping, but we have to remember when they take the green flag, they have to run 5 wide open miles back to the checkered flag, and 5 miles is a lot of fuel when you go into the grand scheme of things in these NASCAR gas tanks. I think back to the Amazon Prime, what was it? The what did they call it? The burn bar. I think those things got about 5 miles per gallon. So that's about a gallon of racing fuel that you are going to be burning under one overtime attempt. So not only do you have to get the restart here if you're Francisco, but you have to make sure you have enough fuel in the tank to make it to that checkered flag. And he's going to have some really aggressive drivers all over him. Mikey Neal, he got that rep on his inside. He can kind of time Francisco now and try to get the jump. We'll see if Francisco's restart will be as good as it was last time, but second attempt at 4 wide overtime here. Francisco looking for his first win in nearly 4 years. I was mentioning a little bit earlier, Kenneth, he got that win at Nashville in December 2021. Since then, only 2 top 5s in 10 starts in the TJ's Team Series. So trying to turn his luck around. If he can put it in victory lane today, it would be his most dominant win since that point.
And for Mikey Neal, chance at his first career victory after being tantalizingly close last time we had a season race at Kansas. And with Lawson Peel and Steven Maggio, 2 drivers who had been familiar with victory lane last season, a chance for them to revitalize their season after some first race struggles. Second attempt at 4 wide overtime will happen here at the exit of Turn 4 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Can the Toyota of Bacalhau hold on to the top spot, or will anyone else try to make a move late? Through the restart zone, they'll wait for Barney the Flagman's effort to give the green flag. Bacalhau hops on the gas pedal, green flag out, second attempt at OT.
That may have been a better jump this time. Mikey Neal fans out to the bottom to not open the door for Maggio. Brandon Banks almost looking under Maggio right there. As Bacalhau is going to get clear. If they can stay green, he's in a good position. Lawson Peel trying to get clear for that second position. Remember, he pitted several laps later than Bacalhau, so he should be relatively good compared to that 30 car, but they are staying side by side behind him. And now the 30 of Francisco Bacalhau is just praying that they can make it back to the white flag without a caution flag coming out. He's in a great position right now as he goes through 3 and 4 for the second to last time.
And there's trouble. Lawson Peel is starting to spin in the middle of turn 4. Can he save it, and will we get the white flag? He's holding on to it, spinning his kip easily. I think Bacalhau might have gotten there. White flag in the air from Indy.
I don't know how a yellow didn't come out there, Kenneth. That was about as close as it could be, as now Francisco's concerns are going to be, can he make it back to the checkered flag without that fuel exhausting? He's going to have half a lap to do it, a little over 1 mile. Mikey Neal sitting back there trying to take advantage of it if this opens up.
Is there any way for anyone behind to catch up to the Hialeah, Florida native, who will step into 3 and 4 for the final time? And as long as he can hold on to it, it will be his biggest win since 2021. Back to victory lane and back to winning ways for the man who's in the booth more often than not. Francisco Bacalhau takes the win from Indianapolis, his first in a long while.
It's domination there, Kenneth. I mean, led almost every lap of this race. He got out front, got in a rhythm, and he smoked them all today. And now we're going to keep teasing him about that full-time effort, Kenneth. I don't think he's going to do it, but if he did, that would be a great win to qualify himself for the playoffs, and I think the confidence has to be restored. First win in almost 4 years. He's got to be really happy right now. That was a spectacular drive from Francisco.
It could not have been a more dominating race for Bacalhau and a well-liked victory. The celebrations from all of the teammates. Schumacher, Moreno on the lot, as Moreno will deal him the race-winning spin. And Bacalhau, for the first time since mid-December of 2021, nearly 4 years ago, is the last time that Bacalhau had tasted victory in this series. And it's the breakthrough in 2025 after a top 10 effort last week at Nashville. Told us how happy he was just to be running there and not to have as much bad luck as he's had from the last season or so. But tonight it will be all worth it, as Paul's setup shop Victory Lane will welcome Francisco Bacalhau for the first time this season. And it's a 4th different winner in Season 8 as Bacalhau takes Indianapolis.
I think he listened to my keys, Kenneth. He stayed off the bricks.
He did. And a beautiful burnout as well for this Celsius Toyota Camry. And when he told us under yellow in that interview that he was just hoping that they would fight for second behind him, that's exactly what transpired. And as Mikey Neal and Lawson Peel were duking it out for the second spot, it was clear runway for Bacalhau to sail and take off. And it's a huge win for the Florida driver as he gets out from his chair. I think he just had a long night's worth of racing. He needs a chance to debrief. What a job by Francisco Bacalhau. Race victory number 1 in Season 8 of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series in an unbelievable effort. As they were wrecking on the white flag lap, Keelan, we almost thought the yellow would fly because of that. But in a moment's notice, Lawson Peel's race went from a huge comeback route to an ultimately sour ending. He did come home in 12th, but probably not the way he would have liked that race to end. As we'll take another look at it. ended up with a chance to win this race. But here it was off the restart.
Yeah, I thought if he could have got clear of Mikey Neal here in turn number 2, and we're going to see it, he gets so close to getting clear through the center of 1 and 2 right there. And off of 2, I thought if he got clear, he may have a shot here, but Mikey Neal just does a good enough job to stay on his quarter panel. Peel kind of got squeezed up where that safer barrier jets out, and he was stuck side by side with him here. And then we will see how this develops. He gets a push from Gabriel Dahari going into turn number 3. Peel just goes in really deep into turn number 3 to try to stick with it, and they're going to be 3 wide off the corner right there. And it's really hard to make 3 wide work right there if you're the 12 of Peel. It looks like he had it gathered up and then just maybe lost a little bit off of turn number 4, and Greg Lautenschlager and Kip Easley got the worst of it. I have no clue how that wasn't out of caution, Kenneth, because all those cars were spinning around, and Francisco is still about 100 yards from the bricks right there. But nevertheless, I mean, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and that is maybe what Francisco got a little bit of right there as we go through our unofficial results.
Did not see this race come back to another attempt, and he told us at the line to finish the race he had 0.5 laps left on his tank of fuel. An extra overtime attempt would have been non-negotiable for Francisco Bacalhau, but it's a win in second attempt of OT, and in wonderful fashion, and in dominating fashion as well. Bacalhau takes his first 4-wide win since 2021, where he dominated at Nashville Superspeedway. How about the run for Mikey Neal, the North Carolinian? Ends up in P2 with Steven Maggio, a season-high 3rd place. Needed that one to go his way after what's been the last few shaky weeks for the former Championship 5 driver from last season. Brandon Banks makes his way to 4th at the end, so a great finishing position for Banks in his number 5 car, and AJ Green wraps up the top 5. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer ends up with P6, and another top 10 effort for Alexander Schumacher comes from Indy as he ends up in 7th. Michael Wallace, how about that recovery as well? After crashing with 2 laps to go with Michael Newbraw, or at least in those final few laps of Michael Newbraw, he ends up in 8th, Lance Hill in 9th, and Adam Alashire, the Ohio native, rounds out the top 10.
Back in the 11th position is on Ethan Fonseca Moreno in the 92. He was up running top 5 a good majority of the day. Unfortunately, did not end up in the top 5 by the end of things. And then 12th on back, this is where really everybody got into one another towards the end of the race. Lawson Peel ends up coming across the line in 12th. Craig Lautenschlager finishes in 13th after being involved in that second to last lap wreck. Christopher Bishop, he got in a wreck earlier in the day, recovers to get in 14th. Chris Fowler, Tyler Murray, Michael Newbraw, all guys who were involved in incidents in 15th to 17th. Eric Schaefer scored 18th right here. I believe he had a meatball flag at the end of the race. Tyler Murray said he will be moved to the end of the lead lap. Randy Showers finishes in 19th, move him up to 18th, barring that decision in the official results later. Gabriel Dahari rounds out the top 20.
And what a shame for Gabriel Dahari. Of course, he'll be looked at from the race control stewards after the move there. Tangling with Lawson Peel. No intent there, of course, but had a chance at a top 5 to the checkered flag. 1 lap down will be Kip Easley in 21st. Timothy Cook ended up in that huge crash on the white flag lap, ended up 22nd. Brandon Gillis 23rd, with Jaden Porter had his power flicker midway through the race, so that's the reason for his disconnection midway after a pretty good start for the winner last week in Nashville. He ends up 4 laps down. Dusty Applin is 25th. Daniel Moore back in 26th place. And then a lot of heavy hitters, Kyle Benson, Craig Parks, Curtis Kelly, and Tristan Bailey for the rest of your top 30. Behind them, 47 laps down after an early exit for Juan Escamilla. He survives for there. Randall Payne ends up 32nd. CJ Munier in 33rd. Nicholas Bauman 34th. Trevor Haley did not make the race after his pedals disconnected, so he ends up that place. And Eric Stewart registered for the session but did not make the green flag. He is rounding out the 36th car field from the racing capital of the world. And for the first time in nearly 4 years, we are joined by Francisco Bacalhau, not as a broadcast member, not as an in-race analyst, but as a 4-wide race winner. Francisco, in what way can you describe the stress, the emotion, the relief, all of that in one fell swoop in that final attempt of overtime?
I would like to preface this by saying that if we had another caution, I did not have fuel to get to the end of the race. When I crossed the start finish line on the checkered, I had only half a lap of fuel left, so I was so worried, even with the caution helping me save fuel and get me to the scheduled distance. It was just more and more and more that was being asked of the car, and I just had less fuel than everybody. And I didn't see it, I heard there was a big wreck in turn 4 when I was coming to the white flag, and I was praying that for some reason I would get to the white flag. And that was like a huge relief, even though I got the wall off of turn 4, which was so stupid of me. But I got to the white flag, and then at that point I was just driving the car around feeling like Sonny Hayes at the end of the F1 movie.
It was all daylight from there as soon as that white flag came out, because no one could really beat you to the line. Lawson Peel and Mikey Neal had done the exact same thing that you told us under one of the previous yellows of the race. You had to hope that they would fight for second. They did that. They gave you enough of a runway to clear yourself out in front and make your way to the end of this race. I want to preface this for a lot of the viewers on the KBueno Racing Network, because they know you more as a broadcaster, not as a driver. You race officials every now and then. You've raced several leagues across the iRacing sphere with some of the similar competition. And in 4 wide, it has been a long journey since that last victory in 2021, where you dominated that race. You made several starts from there, especially in this next-gen era. And you had a fast car in qualifying, fast car in the race, but it's always bad luck that hits you. Now it feels like the racing gods have given you the opportunity, and you seized it 100% of the time. How special is it to finally come back to victory lane, especially after all those tribulations that you faced to get to this point in 4 wide?
It's no secret that in my few starts of last season, it was pure chaos. Every time I got in the car, the speed was there sometimes, and then whenever it was just trouble at every possible opportunity. And I think the turn of the new season, the new build, for some reason, it gave me confidence. Not because I feel better with the current car compared to previously, even though I do, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. I just feel like the air was different the second I unloaded in the duels. I just felt like that dual win really gave me the hope that I almost didn't want to have, that I could run better. Daytona lap 2 started off the way it did and went a lap down, got back on the lead lap, and I had a chance to win on the final lap. Nashville was looking really, really good too as well. There we came back for the top 10 and led the most laps in that race, led the most laps here tonight. Even before tonight's race, I had led more laps in my 2 starts this season than I did all of last season. So I think looking at the stats overall, you could just tell that it's been a lot better for me, and I'm so stoked. I think you could tell because I'm normally never at a loss of words like this, and it's just there's so much coming to me right now of just everything to finally go back to victory lane and win in the next gen car, which is still a car I don't like. I really don't. I've gotten comfortable with it, but by no means is it a car that I still like. So to win with it, honestly, it's like it gives me Kyle Busch vibes from 07 when he says, "I can't stand to drive these things, they suck."
Well, it doesn't matter how the car drove, you managed to pull off a dominating performance. I mean, 78 laps led out of an 88-lap race. It doesn't come easily, and it doesn't come luckily for you. It had been a hard-fought effort since the drop of the green flag when you led the field after Dahari had that end-of-line penalty. Francisco, I have one more question before we let you have the floor to give all of the shout-outs possible. I don't think you're beating the allegations. Are you going to run full-time? I mean, this season has been all-time right now.
I am not. Like I said, I've said no matter what that I'm going to commit to the schedule that I committed to. I'm going to run races. I'm going to be at Montreal, but that doesn't mean I'm going to run full time. It really does not. I have a couple other races scheduled. I like those tracks. Indy was one of them. I really like this racetrack, and I mean tonight kind of proved exactly why. But no, I'm not going to get for the playoffs. I mean, if Tyler's listening right now, as a matter of fact, do not count me for the playoffs. If for whatever reason I meet the start requirement, do not count me. I am not going to participate in the playoffs. I'm not going to attempt to run full time. Not this season.
Now, what if you win Montreal and get back-to-back wins, and you're sitting in the points lead? I mean, this is You have an all-time season right now that you can just,
It's nice to think about, Keelan, I'll be honest, but it's just not. That's not where I am right now. It wasn't what I prepared for, and honestly, I feel like I want to be a part of the broadcast still for season 8. There's still so many good storylines that we can talk about, and I want to be on that side of it. I'm just soaking
We
in
do
these
miss you up here.
opportunities. I miss
We
it too. I
do.
love being up
We're
there in the
waiting on
booth.
you.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll be back soon enough. I think Auto Club is the next time I'll be up there in the booth. But I'm just trying to soak it in, enjoy being on the racetrack as much as possible. I honestly, looking back on it, wish I participated more from season 4 through 6, but my computer limited me for a lot of that time, and I'm trying to make up for lost time. So that's really what it's all about. But I feel like I didn't say it clearly enough after Nashville. I am not running full time.
Well, look, we were just
I
grade A trolling you at that point, so it's fine. It's fine.
We were.
Still a great
just-
win. Go ahead, Keelan.
I just wanted to let you know that Kenneth put me on the spot in the pre-race show, and he said, who do you think's going to win? And I said, if Francisco can be the control car on the initial start of the race, I don't think there's any beating him. So thank you for making me look smart and leading nearly every lap.
Wait, I got a question for you guys now. Kenneth, at any point did you show my text message from this morning?
I did not. I said it though. I did verbally say it on the broadcast. You were feeling dangerous. Devil emoji,
like
by the way, horns up on the emoji. So there was
I will
extra emphasis.
go to the text message itself. So here we go. Ignore the game pigeon mini game that's on top of it. Where's my camera? My camera's here. I'll try to zoom it in. Look at it right there. What does that say?
I woke
And that
up
is Kenneth
feeling
Bueno.
dangerous in all caps.
Does that say at 4:30 in the morning?
That is 6:30 in the morning when I woke up for work this morning.
That is
You
definition
woke
of
up
locked
locked
in.
in.
Yeah. That is locked in.
Man.
Francisco, a huge sigh of relief and a big time win here at Indianapolis. I know we're going to keep nagging about you running full time, but for now, enjoy the celebrations. Before we let you step aside, anybody that you want to give a shout out to for a moment like this?
Thank you to everybody at BBR. It was a really fantastic race for us once again. We were able to take the top handful of positions there at the checkered flag. Everybody on the team, Ethan, Jaden, hold on. There's more people. There's a lot of people now. I can remember names. Jonathan. A lot of names. I can't remember all the names right now, but it's a fair amount. And the biggest shout out I would have to say goes to Mikey Neal. He really helped me out with my fuel situation and on those restarts, just making sure I can save as much as possible to even have a chance. And then we would race it out, depending however the restart went. But he really helped me save fuel big time, and that's probably a very big reason I won. So shout out Mikey Neal on that one. Shout out to KBueno Racing, like I said, the whole team. Shout out to the league admins for making this series what it is and being able to come out here from time to time and put on some good races, both in the booth and on the racetrack. Shout out to Celsius. I think this is the first time I actually have the proper flavor with me that I run on the racetrack, and I'm not a big fan of this flavor. I know I like the colors, that's why I made the paint scheme, but it got me to victory lane, so maybe I have to do this tradition more often. Shout out to everybody who's watching on the YouTube stream, my family for supporting my occasionally high volume on my part, since I'm not in my room, I'm in my living room, and everybody who puts up with me on the other side of it with everything that I do to try to lock in.
Powered your way to victory lane, and you made good use of the opportunity tonight in a dominating way. Francisco, of course, on behalf of all of us, good friends at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations sincerely on a win like this. It was awesome to see you cross the start-finish line first after what has been a long journey trying to get to this point. A huge congratulations, and we'll see you at Montreal. We'll say la vie next week in Canada.
Thank you guys so much. I'll try to practice my French for that race, so appreciate it. See you guys.
That's Francisco Bacalhau, fresh off of the victory from the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, treating Bacalhau like a king, and a king he will be for a little while until Montreal next week. Let's join the driver who runs up in second place at the end of the event, and it is a season-high finish for Mikey Neal. Keelan, you've got him.
I do. I got Mikey Neal down here. Mikey, Another good run for you. You've been putting together some good efforts. I know Nashville didn't quite go the way you wanted after your run in with Alexander Schumacher, but a good run at Richmond and a good run tonight at Indianapolis. You're looking dangerous as far as the speed is going. So take us through your race today to your second place finish. I know Francisco is really tough to beat, so that was going to be hard, but you put together a good fight and finished in a good second place position after running top 5 pretty much all day.
Yeah, no, my Alex Huffman Designs Camaro was very, very fast today, and I'm pretty ecstatic about this one because Indy has to be like one of my top 5 worst tracks on the sim. I have never ever finished good at Indy. I think I have an Xfinity win in 2017 in an official race, and that's it. Indy has never been a good track for me, and so going from one of my best tracks at Nashville and finishing last, and then finishing runner up here Indy is pretty surreal, but I mean, what a race! The cars, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes they're not the most fun whenever you get single file like that. But man, the strategy tonight was so much fun, and I bet everyone else would say that too. I mean, it was crazy. With everything going on, the cautions coming out, and so I had to do a lot of saving tonight. But the main thing is I just didn't overdrive the car. I maybe hit the wall once or twice tonight. I saw a lot of people hitting it. I was just being nice and easy on the bottom, rolling the bottom, and I was able to come out with a really good finish. I didn't have a good last pit stop, but caught that last caution, went from 6th to 2nd, and everything there from on just went correct for me, or went right for me, and eventually coming out here second place. This is just awesome, especially at the Brickyard again, one of my worst tracks. Cannot complain. Super happy with the outcome tonight.
Yeah, I know the next gen, it catches a lot of flack, especially when we get, single filed out like that and it's hard to make passes. But I think in those situations, it takes a driver to, mentally lock in those situations, take care of your car, not overdrive it, run anybody over, do what you got to do. And at the same time, try to mentally think of a strategy like all these guys had to do. And I know Francisco, he said he had a half lap of fuel at the line because he was pitting right when the window opened. So how is that from the driver's seat? Because I wasn't out there with y'all tonight. Me and Kenneth weren't out there. How is it from the driver's seat when you're kind of gridlocked single file like that and you have to stay in a rhythm with how much these cars, they change every corner aerodynamically. So what is it like in the driver's seat when you're trying to lock in one of those positions?
Yeah, it's just repetitiveness and, racing a lot of times. I've been racing almost 10 years on here, and you get used to the repetitiveness, especially with this car. I mean, the car is so low to the ground, it just almost sticks to the ground. And I kind of know what to expect going into these situations. So even though Indy's not been a great track for me, I knew first off tonight was going to have to get track position number 1. We qualified, I think, top 7 or so. And so even though it wasn't my best lap, it was a good lap. And, keeping that track position over time, I think was the most important thing. No matter we're double file, single file, just trying to get as many positions as you can on the restart because it's so hard to pass. And, the reason why it's so hard to pass is because, watching the stream, it looks like, you get up to their bumper and you're like, man, just turn left, go underneath them. But what happens here at Indy is that, you'll have your lead car who's in clean air. It's not going to be distracted by any draft. The car is driving nice. When you have draft in front of you, the car in front, so like let's say I'm in third place, the second place car is going to get sucked to that first car. And I'm going to get sucked to the second place car. So basically the runs even out the further down you get down the straightaway. And so just kind of understanding that and knowing that's what's going to happen is kind of important because what you're going to do is you're going to drive into the corner, and if you try to drive and catch them, you're overdriving the corner and then you're losing 2 positions behind you. So I mean, you may have not really been able to tell too much, but I was running half a lane lower, I think, than anyone tonight. I was almost on the apron. I saw a lot of people kind of running near the white line. I was just underdriving the entries of the corner. I also stayed in 5th gear. So once we had that caution around lap 30 and, we had to save a little bit of fuel, a lot of people like to downshift to 4th gear. I stayed in 5th gear the entire time, and that got me 2 extra laps. And I think that was pretty important for the end of the race because if we'd had one more yellow, I would have been the lead car. There's no doubt about it. I would have been the lead car after that because Fran would have had a pit. So I felt like I put myself in a really good position tonight, and kind of keeping the car again just down low, off the wall was the most important thing because I knew even though I may not have the best run off the corner, and Steven Maggio, props to him. I mean, he was fast, but again, just kind of holding my position and running a decent line, it never allowed him to get past me. And so, that was just kind of what it was tonight, being repetitive, underdriving the entry a little bit just to make sure I made the corner. And, we almost came away with the win tonight, but second place is not bad.
Well, Mikey, I'm starting to think you are a big fan of the KBueno Racing Network pre-race shows because that is exactly what Francisco was doing on our on-track lap. He got his left front almost in the grass down there, and that's just – it's crazy to me how good he is that he can stay consistent and get all the way down to that level and just stay consistent. And also the Keelan's keys, you must have been listening to him because the biggest key of the night was track position. So I feel like you have you listen to my keys, and you need to tell everybody else this because people don't listen and then they end up not finishing well. But when you listen like you do, you end up finishing well. So I appreciate you making me look smart up here. So. A good run for you, Mikey. A second place finish, putting you up in a good position as points stand right now. You climbed 15 spots up to the 17th position. I know missing Daytona kind of threw a dent in that, but out of the guys that have started only 3 races, I believe you are 4th so far. So strong start to your season. You got anybody you want to thank for putting together a good second place effort today?
Yeah, first and foremost, top 3 goes out to my grandfather. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with glioblastoma. And so I know he'll go back and watch this because he likes to watch me race. And so, his top 3 goes out to him. And, we're really fighting strong and hoping for the best. But I got to thank y'all for putting on this beautiful broadcast, man. I love going back and watching the broadcast. Y'all do absolutely fantastic. I feel like I'm at the racetrack. And, I really cannot thank y'all enough for putting on this broadcast. I got to thank all my teammates at KBueno Racing. Francisco's going to be proud of me for that. But I got to thank all my teammates there. We really worked good together tonight. I was happy to help Fran there. I had to push him a little bit, make sure he made it to the end, but he did, and he worked really good with me all night. Everyone else on the team, Jaden, Ethan, Maggio, Dahari, I mean, we all worked pretty good tonight. We're able to secure some really good finishing places, and I got to thank Jaden again. He's an amazing friend. He's been keeping me going in iRacing, so thank you very much, Jaden. Also, even though it's not a win, top 3 goes out to his dad and his uncle. Lost him within the last few months and stuff. So I love Jaden, man. Hope you're doing good. And also got to thank all my friends and family for watching. Got to thank again the main sponsor on the car tonight, Alex Huffman Designs. Alex Huffman does a great job making my cars. You see here this beautiful Carolina Hurricanes car, does a great job making that. And go Buckeyes, go Hurricanes. And thank y'all again for putting on a great show tonight.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Michael, and I don't know about the Buckeyes, but I'll let you slide because you finished second today.
Thank y'all very much.
That's Mikey Neal, who ends up in second place tonight from Indianapolis. Yeah, we're gonna have some debates about who's the best college football team now that, quote unquote, I'd say Miami is the best team in the country right now. But alas, I digress. We'll carry on to third place. Let's bring in Steven Maggio, who ends up with his best finish of season 8, and it comes here at the Brickyard. Steven, I'd imagine from the first several starts of this season, it has looked kind of bleak. Lots of bad luck situations in which fast car, but couldn't really complete the end of it. Tonight, it is a completion for a top 3. What are the emotions and how much of a relief is a race like this, especially given all that's gone on this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like an air race to me. That just kind of ran around the same spot the whole race. It's just very frustrating when you're in the dirty air and everything. You can't really do much, and I don't know, there was never really a strategy call that I felt like I could do to get myself in on like a winning strategy. It felt like I was kind of locked in, and I just had to run where I was running the whole race. Usually I try to find alternate strategies, and I just really didn't feel like there was one tonight. I maybe could have pitted that one caution like Ethan did, and then took 2 on a green, and that would have worked out. Like, I think Ethan would have won that if that stayed green. Because Francisco I know was having to save fuel, but I mean, I'll take the third. I don't know. I don't really know what else I could have done. The restarts, you had to be really aggressive, and I kept getting the short end of the stick. Like, I was fourth for 2 or 3 cautions in the middle of the race, and Francisco picked the bottom every time. And then we get to the overtimes, and I'm third, and he starts picking the outside. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, if I could have gotten one restart behind him, I don't know, maybe I could have timed it perfectly and done something, but I just never even got the chance. So that was pretty frustrating. I know he has no obligation to worry about where I am, and I'm not saying that he should have. I'm just saying it was just unfortunate the way it kept falling, that like every single time I was in the second row, I just was not restarting behind the leader.
Well, regardless, you were still able to put yourself into the top 10, run as well as you did, and even under the long green flag stretches, just be able to be in the right place at the right time. Was there anything that maybe have clicked from the end of Nashville after a frustrating night to tonight, in which you had a much better car over the course of the race, and you had been able to utilize that over long green flag stretches? Did it feel like more of a relief this time from Indy?
I don't know. It was nice to finish where I was running, as opposed to last week when in the closing laps I got spun, I got wrecked. So that was, I guess, relief. But I don't know if I would say the two races. Like, I wasn't thinking about Nashville today. I'll put it that way. Other than I'm just gonna start racing more aggressive, because I feel like I'm getting raced differently than the way I race people. So I'm just gonna start racing more aggressively, and we'll see how that goes. And I guess tonight it worked out pretty good.
Still a lot of first half left in this regular season. We go road course racing next week at Montreal, but a lot of tracks that are on the schedule to which you've been strong at. Auto Club, winner last season at that venue. So anything that stands out for the back half of this regular season, at least in terms of this first half before the All-Star break, that you can try to utilize alongside that aggressiveness to get a first win this year?
Yeah, Auto Club's good. I don't know. I feel like they kind of ruined it on this last update, but it's all right. Kentucky's pretty fun. Then I kind of have a bad stretch until Chicagoland again, I guess, which I did really good there last season. So we'll just keep plugging along. I mean, it feels like you can win any race now with this update. You just gotta run your right race, have a good strategy, and be leading and have the clean air at the end of the race.
Well, hopefully things turn out to be as positive as they are tonight. Hopefully things continue to go on that upward trajectory. Steven, on this third place finish tonight from Indianapolis, anybody that you want to shout out or thank for the evening's run?
Yeah, shout out you guys with the broadcast. Tyler with running the league, and shout out Micah. I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He runs a near perfect race for where he qualified and gets taken out by a lap car in the closing laps. Like, it's horrible. I feel really bad for him. And shout out Francisco on the win, and Mikey on the second. I had a fun battle with Mikey all night, and that's about it.
Well, Steven, we really appreciate the time. On behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on the third place finish, and hopefully we'll see you out at Montreal for road course racing next week.
Yeah, have a good one.
That's Steven Maggio in his 51 car. Best finish of season 8 after what has been a rather rough start to the season and the sophomore slump potentially for Maggio, but he's starting to pick back things up right now here at Indianapolis. So this could be the start of a consistent run through the halfway mark of the regular season. So Keelan, we jump into the next race with a chance to see who could add their name to the list. We go road course racing at Montreal. First ever trip that we have up north of the border in Canada. We'll be out at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, our first ever trip to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in 4-wide history for a road course race, and lots of plenty marquee tracks that are on this schedule. Kentucky, a new addition, Bristol and Pocono coming their way late in the first half of the regular season up until that all-star race at Homestead, Miami. So plenty more opportunities that are still out there for those drivers still trying to gain some sort of that momentum midway.
Yeah, and I'm really curious, Kenneth. I don't know. We haven't had a road course winner not named Brandon Hawkins since when? Late season 5, maybe? Did we get one season 6 that wasn't Brandon?
I believe season 6, and I think it was Lawson. I will double check though.
I know every race that I have been up here in the booth and it's been a road course, it's been Brandon Hawkins winning. So I think, with him not in the field next week, this thing is blown wide open. Lawson Peel ran second to him a lot at road courses last season. And if he can just put together a good race like he has, he could be a favorite. I think Francisco, coming off a win in Indy, he's got all that momentum. He's racing next week. Kyle Benson, who has won at the Roval in the past. He's had road course speed. I just feel like next week is wide open. And Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, too, who has had a lot of speed recently. He won in the KBRN Truck Series at Montreal just a couple weeks ago. So this road course racing has me very excited, Kenneth, for next week, because I feel like it's more wide open than it has been in a long time here in 4Wide. So I'm super excited for that. And as we kind of get our legs going on this season, we start to see who's going to be threats week in and week out. It sure seems like that 92 of Ethan Fonseca Moreno, he's got a lot of momentum. He's sitting in the points lead after today. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, AJ Green, second and third. Those are a lot of guys that we have covered up near the front. So we're starting to see the season take shape, Kenneth, and guys who will be favorites are kind of, appearing above the rest in the point standings.
Always exciting when you kind of figure out who those drivers are, and then mid-season, those storylines start to come forth. I do want to tell you, Keelan, you are right. The last time we had a road course winner in 4Wide that was not named Brandon Hawken, I believe it was Season 5, Charlotte Roval, when Kyle Benson won the race. That was the last time that Kyle Benson has won a 4Wide race, by the way. So, frankly, it's been a little while.
A long time.
Yeah, since we've seen a driver not named Brandon Hawken win a road course affair. So when we take Canada and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve next Wednesday, you will not want to miss that. It will be a lot of fun. Our good friend Keelan will be celebrating his birthday on October 1st, so we'll try and bring the cakes and candles for him as we go road course racing on our first for the 4Wide Racing Series. But until then, that will do it from all of us here from the Brickyard and the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A huge thank you to all of you for watching on the KBueno Racing Network for all 88 grueling laps of tonight's event. And a huge victory for our good friend Francisco Bacalhau, first in 4Wide since 2021. On behalf of Tyler Murray and all of the admin team people that makes this league go round and round for years to come, and for all the great people that make up the KBueno Racing Network, for Eli Comerford, Nate Polite, Charlie Beyer, our good friend in the booth alongside myself, Keelan Belsha, I am Kenneth Bueno. And a thank you for watching tonight's race of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. Francisco Bacalhau back on top of the 4Wide World, winner from Indianapolis.